Welcome back to Higurashi. So, one thing that I just want to clear up last time, I went back and looked back at the thing that I was confused about yesterday, and basically it had to do with a vague, a really vague line that could have meant a few different things that kind of confused me. So, when Shion was on the phone, she had said that basically her exact words were, "That night, I told him that we went into the storehouse," and there was like some ellipses in there. And I feel like at the time, I was confused and I thought that she was saying that she told him that night. Like she literally told him the night of, which she had no opportunity to do, so obviously that was a lie, if that were true. But what I think she actually meant was, I told him, and the "that night" applied to when they went into the storehouse. So as in, like, I told him that we went into the storehouse that night. And it's just like the way that the sentence worked. It kind of confused me at the time. But yeah, I think that's all it was. So, the possibility still exists that it could be actually Shion, and that Keiichi is completely mistaken here, and that it is not Mion pretending to be Shion. If that is the case, then she would have had to meet him at the restaurant, which presumably could be Angel Maud, but I don't know. But there is a major problem with that being that Oishi said that she was not, she did not show up to her part-time job at Angel Maud that day, so that means that she was not at Angel Maud, either, well, at least not as a waitress. Maybe she showed up as a customer, maybe she showed up in disguise, I don't know, but it seems like there is a lot of doubt on the idea that Shion is still around, and that is Shion. I'm just keeping it at the back of my head that it's possible that it is Shion, because I feel like if it really was her, and suddenly Keiichi started, like, turning on her in the same way that, like, everybody else in Hinamizawa was, then I could totally see her reacting that way. But I don't think that that is necessarily the case. I think that it's much more likely that it's just Mion. So, yeah, let's get started with these tips, shall we? From the Scrapbook 11. The problem with twins. This is not limited to just Hinamizawa, but in Onigafuchi village especially, the three families detested giving birth to twins as successors. The long-term dictatorship built on the precarious balance of the three families must have feared collapsing under the weight of internal strife from things like family quarrels. And I guess we should keep in mind that Takano is writing this probably after she became acquainted with Shion. So that would explain, like, why she would even be thinking to write all this. According to the literature, if twins were born, then they had to be culled. With that, the very fact that both the Sonozaki family successor, Mion Sonozaki, and her twin, Shion, are alive is in itself deeply interesting. Perhaps the current leader, Oryo, is sympathetic. Or maybe Oryo does not want Shion to be alive. Maybe the parents actually were disowned because they wanted to keep Shion from being culled. And that's why they moved away with her. That would make a lot of sense, honestly. Of course, the twins were not cared for equally, and as the heir, Mion received special treatment. From what I've heard, despite the two of them looking exactly the same on the outside, the talent lies solely with Mion. My own observations of the two of them don't leave me with that impression. Tradition dictates that the leader of the Sonozaki family is said to inherit a demon, and they tattoo a magnificent one onto his or her back. In accordance with the tradition, there is an extremely high possibility that Mion has such a tattoo on her back. So, that means that we can tell, there's like a way to tell which one is which, by looking at their back. From what I've heard, there is apparently a magnificent demon tattooed on Orio's back as well. Now I wonder, I don't think we actually got a good look at the back of the Angel Mod cosplay outfit. But I feel like if we'd gotten a look at that, then we would have been able to see her back, because I think it was exposed. And I think that if anybody had seen it, they probably would have made mention of there being a big tattoo there, so there probably wasn't one. I don't know. Then, I wonder what sort of tattoo belongs to the heir, Mion. I really want to see her back. Well, if we happen to see either of their backs, we'll have a surefire way of knowing which one is which. Of course, I can't really think of that many situations in which that would happen. So, at the Ch2 Mahjong Parlor. Reserved for the day, Ch2 Mahjong Parlor. Clatter clack. Oishi handed over a convenience store bag with a carton of cigarettes in it to the old lady who owned the Mahjong Parlor, and she shrewdly made herself scarce. She was used to this by now.
Oi-san! なんだ、みんな真面目に待ってたんですか? さんまでもやってりゃよかったのに。
Everyone sitting at the mahjong tables in the small parlor were Oishi's subordinates, but there were no tiles laid out anywhere.
連日の不眠不休の捜査、本当にお疲れ様です。
Energetic responses filled the parlor. Already it had lost the atmosphere of a place of entertainment.
状況は芳しくありません。所長が園崎系議員の恫喝に屈したそうです。近日中に高野殺しはお隣の県警さんに譲り、村長たちの失踪は行方不明扱いで生活課に委ねるようです。
That damn upstart chief. The veterans in the room cursed him.
請求した令状もすべて却下されました。課長からは園崎家界隈には近づくなとまで言われています。いやいや困ったもんです。ちなみに私には来週から警視庁への研修命令が出るそうです。その後は余った有給を伊豆で消化しろとまで言われています。いや、そういうのも悪くないですね。
He heard a few dry laughs. It wasn't anything to laugh about, but that was all they could do.
いつもそうですが、事件と車のキーの閉じ込めはよく似ています。開けるための鍵はいつもその中に閉じ込められているんです。車なら修理業者を呼んで扉をこじ開ける。事件なら熊ちゃん、図面を。
Kuma guy flipped over the whiteboard. I think that's the first time we've actually gotten his full name. On the back was a map of the Sonozaki premises made with magnets.
私もずーっとこの商売をやってます。勘には自信があるつもりですがね。退職金が欲しい方は私が10数える間に席を外してください。
Huh. So it sounds like they're gonna do some under the radar stuff. Off the grid. Oishi began to count to 10, and everyone counted along with him. It was their famous 10-count resolution.
9、10。ああ、誰も出てかないよ。皆さん、ご家族はもっと大切にしてくださいよ。
Everybody laughed uproariously, cheering things up.
各自、手元の資料を確認。監視カメラの所在と資格を叩き込んでください。熊ちゃんは指揮者で待機。非常時は私に代わって指揮をお願いしますよ。小宮山君は突入 A 班、敦君は突入 B 班を指揮。監視班は1から8まで所定の位置で監視を。ボンチ君はタイムテーブルを厳守。署に怪しまれないようローテを管理してください。さて、待機中の班が一番大仕事ですよ。 課長に私の所在を聞かれたらとぼけてください。ゲストのエスコート役は私がやります。きっと会場へ連れて行きますので、皆さん気長に待っててください。
落ちるっすかね、前原圭一は。
私の見たところじゃ明日明後日には行けそうですよ。もうコロッと。
So, they're planning to take Keiichi to the Sonozaki residence, and they're expecting him to agree to this, and Oishi seems to have a plan to make that happen. Well then, let's continue onward. Seems like things are possibly going to come to a head this chapter, but I really don't know if all the episodes or whatever are the same length. So this may be the last chapter. I don't know. We'll see.
ケイチ。
放っておいてやれ。友達が行方不明になったんだ。気の毒にな。
Normally, my dad never shows me any consideration, but this time he
う
did.
ちの圭一もしばらくの間学校を控えた方がいいんじゃないのか。警察が何とかするまで外出を控えた方が安全だと思うぞ。
そうね。もしもってことに比べたら、学校を何日かお休みにするくらい。
それよりもこんな物騒な事態になったら学校なんか休校にするのが筋じゃないのか。まったく学校の先生方は人の子を何だと思ってるんだ。
Mom and Dad were getting pretty riled up, but at this point I couldn't care less. Besides, that wasn't the only thing I couldn't care less about. The breakfast table, the food in front of me, the time and date, myself. I really had no interest in anything. This feeling, it was like a dead fog in my mind. It felt like getting dizzy after taking strong medication.
圭一、学校の勉強はどうなんだ。圭一の方が進んでるくらいじゃないのか。もしそうならしばらくお休みしてもいいんだぞ。
I didn't even feel like answering. Today was Thursday. Only 4 days had passed since the Watanagashi festival. Such a short time, and yet now things were completely different. Everything had changed. The tranquil village, bright and clear as it were, or as if it were an Indian summer, had undergone a total reversal. People were made to disappear every night, and we couldn't even relax when walking out in broad daylight. The village had become a world of fear. I had no right to curse this outcome. After all, the one responsible for everything was me. No, if it wasn't you, it would have been someone else. Like, even if you didn't go in there, they would have gone in there. We know that from last time. That night, I couldn't resist my honestly tiny, little, and incredibly stupid curiosity, and broke the taboo.
ここは入ってはいけないところなんだろう。やめようぜ。鍵がかかっているのを勝手に開けて押し入るなんて。シオンだってこれが密会現場じゃないと分かったなら十分だろう。俺はこんなのには全然興味はないんだ。こんなところにいる間にリカちゃんの演舞が終わっちゃったらどうするんだよ。
I prattled on as I took the lock from Tomitake-san's hands and put it back on the door. I'll forget everything I saw here, so come on. Let's go, let's go. Takano-san was fretting, but I pushed her away. Tomitake-san grinned painfully. Shion's shoulders drooped as if to call me an idiot. Even so, I didn't care. I pushed everyone farther and farther away. Rika-chan's dance was still going on. Then, at last, her dance was brought to a close with a roaring applause. I too, until my hands turned red. I clapped and I clapped. That's how things could have gone, I guess.
レナちゃんじゃない？いつもの時間だから迎えに来たんじゃない？
I looked up at the clock. It was 5 minutes past my time to meet with Rena.
圭一、しばらく学校を休んだ方がいいんじゃないのか？
そうだね。気を使ってくれてありがとう。
I rose from my seat. I went to the entrance to greet Rena.
おはよ
I really hope Mion is not with her, because that would be bad news. That would all but confirm, like, everything, basically.
う。今日から集団登校だから。遅れちゃダメだよ。
Ah, that's right. If we, the ones farthest away, were to be late, the younger kids on the way there would be waiting for us.
さあ、今日からしばらく休むことにするよ。学校。
うん。
Rena answered shortly, nodding.
圭一くんが自分の体に一番優しい過ごし方を。だから別に引け目を感じることなんかないと思うな。あ、それからこれ回覧板。お母様に渡しておいてくれるかな。いろいろ大事なお知らせがあるみたいだから。
I took the notice. There were a lot more pages than normal. The one on the top announced the disappearance of the mayor, Rika-chan, and Satoko, and that they wanted any information about them. It made my heart ache.
警察も必死に探してくれてる。きっと見つかるから。待ってよ。ね。
Rena said, smiling in an attempt to give me courage. Rather than that, though, her smile looked like it was because she herself wanted to believe they were safe.
レナは俺を問い詰めないんだな。
うん。
レナは知ってるんだろ。俺があの晩
西宮殿に忍び込んだことかな。
I was speechless for a moment, but then I bit my lip, made up my mind, and nodded a little. See, like, if this were the previous chapter, if this were Onikakushi, then Rena would have said that in like an intimidating way, like trying to like really show that she knows what we did and trying to like rub our nose in it and all that. But this time it's much more of a like caring, like gentle way of saying it, and it definitely feels like she has a completely different attitude this time around. Which of course she would, because the events were completely different, but...
筒抜けなんだな。まったく悪いことはするもんじゃないよ。
みーちゃんはすごく怒ってたよ。
So she was upset. I suppose she would have been.
でもね、きっとみーちゃんが怒ってたのは忍び込んだことよりもそれを隠していたことだと思うの。
Yeah, that is also a thing, right? Because Keiji lied a lot less in this episode, especially to Reina. Whereas in the previous time, he was like lying left and right. And I feel like there was a lot better communication this time around. Still not optimal, still not perfect, but it was better.
圭一君は自分から言い出して謝らなくちゃいけなかったんじゃないかな。
He should have, but it's too late now, unfortunately. And even if he had, I don't know if she would have been okay with that. Like, she might not have been mad at him, but she might still have, like, reluctantly still turned the village against him because it's the taboo or whatever. I should have told her myself and apologized. That troubled me. Just 1 week ago, I did something that I myself should have apologized to Mion for. I'd hurt her badly. However, I hadn't realized that at all. Plus, with all the confusion that Shion's appearance had brought, I still hadn't been able to talk to Mion about it.
レナの言う通りだな。俺はいつもレナに教えられるまで 何も気づかなくて。
圭一くん、もしもだよ。もしも圭一くんが悪いことをしたことをすぐに認めてみーちゃんに謝っていたら、リカちゃんとさとこちゃんはいなくならずに済んだのかな。
I don't think that's the best thing to say in this situation if you want to make him feel better, though. That is kind of like... That's not a great line of thinking to pursue. I couldn't answer right away. I couldn't admit to that. Wasn't Rena telling me right now, though, that I should have admitted to my crimes sooner? If I'd done that and apologized, would things not have gone in such a horrible direction? Rena's eyes were filled with kindness, but they weren't naive enough to forgive me for keeping silent, and they stared fixedly into my own.
So da.
If I had admitted my crimes sooner, then Rika-chan and Satoko wouldn't have had to die or disappear. The palm of Rena's hand slapped me in the cheek. I feel like maybe she didn't want him to think that way. Maybe she's trying to say that he should be thinking the opposite. I stood there unmoving, my head still tilted in the direction I'd been hit. It didn't hurt at all.
誰も圭一くんのことを叱らなかったと思う。だから私が代わりに圭一くんを叱るね。
I pressed a hand to my cheek, now warm with embarrassment, and quietly stared down at Rena's feet. Unfortunately, as touching and warm as this moment is with Rena, it's not going to change the fact that things are still going to be the same with Mion. This does not translate to everything being okay with Mion. At best, this is Rena's way of saying goodbye almost, so I don't know.
入ってはいけないところに勝手に入るのはとても悪いこと。それはわかる？返事ははいだよ、圭一くん。
はい。
そしてもっと悪いのは自分が悪いことをしたのを認めないこと。悪いことをするのはとてもいけないことだけど、それを認めて謝らないことはもっともっと悪いことなんだよ。
はい、僕が悪かったです。
For a few moments, Rena stared at me silently and intently, as if gauging my remorse. Then finally, the tension in her face softened, and she smiled.
じゃあ、もう時間だから、私は行くよ。回覧板、お母様に渡しておいてね。あと、回覧板は暗くなったら持っていかないようにって注意付きだから。
I bent down to pick up the notice which I'd dropped when she slapped me. The pages had come out of the clasp and were now making a mess on the floor. I gathered them up one by one. My hand stopped at a single, more light-hearted page, with peaceful sentences dancing on it. We still have plenty of homemade soy sauce in stock. Feel free to come to the Sonozaki house if you want one. Or want some.
なんだこれ。
I picked up the page and scanned the rest of it. They were stockpiling high-quality soy sauce they got from faraway relatives in the Akita prefecture. Yeah, I mean, it definitely does put suspicion on Mion for Rena's theory. But again, that was all just Rena's theory, so we can't necessarily take it as, 100% fact. They'd gotten a big shipment recently. They couldn't use it all, so they wanted anyone who wanted some of it to feel free to come over, is what it said. As a PS, it said it arrived in barrels and to please bring a 2-liter bottle or other container for it. That's how it tied together.
醤油をもらいに行くなら、園崎家か。レナ、お前ひょっとして知ってたんじゃ？
うん、知ってた。
Rena had already been suspicious of Mion as soon as she noticed that the big bottle of soy sauce was missing. Rika-chan had taken the bottle and gone to Mion's house, and there she was erased. Rika-chan wasn't coming back, so Satoko called Mion's house, since she knew where she had gone, and then Satoko got called there as well. That meeting on the day the mayor disappeared, didn't Oishi-san say that the 3 families participated in it? The 3 families would include the Sonozaki family. Didn't he also say that the current leader was really old, so her heir, Mion, frequently stood in for her at public appearances? I mean, I guess that's possible. While the mayor was returning from the shrine, Mion called out and stopped him. She talked to him and invited him to their house, and then she made him disappear. It was probably even simpler to make Shion disappear. Shion was part of the Sonozaki family. They probably knew exactly what she was doing at all times. I'm sure they even knew her part-time job schedule too. Thinking back, wasn't that Angel Model store, managed by the Sonozaki family? Setting up an ambush for her there wouldn't have been any trouble at all.
俺ミオンのところへ行く。謝ってくるよ。もう全部終わりにしてもらう。ミオンはきっと簡単には許してくれないだろうけど、もうこれ以上誰も犠牲にならないように頼んでくる。
With that decided, there was no need for me to be lazing around here. I put on my shoes and slipped past Rena to exit the house. When she stopped me.
私も行くよ。
レナ、学校はいいのかよ。
学校なんかよりもっと大切な用事だよ。
レナは来るな。この上レナまで巻き込まれたら俺は頭がどうにかなってしまうかもしれない。
Rena didn't move her arm, which was blocking my way.
ケイチ君までいなくなったら私も頭がどうにかなってしまうかもしれない。だからケイチ君だけを行かせない。
Rena argued boldly as tears welled up in her eyes. I saw them and I knew the strength of her resolve.
わかった。行こう。ありがとう、レナ。
Rena nodded slightly but firmly, and finally let down the arm blocking me. Let's go to Mion's house. I'll apologize for the crimes I've committed. Then we'll put an end to these twisted days. Unfortunately, I just have the strongest feeling that this isn't gonna happen. That something is gonna get in the way, whether it's Oishi or something. After that, I'll pray that once more we can return to those fun, lively days. With Rena following me, I left the house. In front of the house, there was a car waiting. It was Oishi-san. Seriously, just brush him off. Just don't even acknowledge him. Run if you have to.
いやー、おはようございます。前原さん、それから龍宮さんも朝から羨ましいですね。
What a truly praiseworthy man he was, if he had been lying in wait so early in the morning just to pressure me into talking. On this morning, though, maybe this was actually a good opportunity.
警察の方ですよね。
ありゃ、龍宮さんには名乗ってませんでしたっけ？これは失礼しました。私、沖宮署の大石と申します。どうぞよろしく。
大石さんに喋るのか？
うん。ケイチ君の罪は私の平手だけであがなえるけど、兄ちゃんの罪はこの人たちにあがなってもらわなくちゃいけない。
Well, that is actually surprising to hear from Rena. Pain and sadness. I looked down as those emotions built up in my heart.
大石さんにお話があります。
はてはて、 どんなお話でしょうか。ここで立ち話します？それとも車の中でしますか？
車の中でします。
I only continued to look down weakly. All I could do was be thankful for how dependable Reina was. At Rena's urging, I revealed everything to Oichi-san. The latter, while making sure to throw in murmurs that he was paying attention every now and then, took notes. We continued that way for a while.
どうです。話したらなんだか胸がすっきりしたんじゃないですか？
Oishi-san asked this while scratching his head with his ballpoint pen. I mean, it's not like any of what we said was conclusive anyway. It's literally all just circumstantial, so none of that really matters. We haven't really told him anything that he can use. Of course, I don't feel better. The price that had been paid up until now for me not owning up to my crimes had been so immense. But as long as that payment wasn't returned, the load on my chest could never be removed. His radio started to emit static.
はい、もしもし、大石です。はいはい、引き続き見張りお願いします。ね、答えに窮したら実は居眠りしてて起こさないように言われてるとかごまか。
The radio grew silent.
いや失礼、仕事の連絡でした。
今園崎家前は動きなしって言ってましたよね。
ありゃん、そんな風に聞こえちゃいました？そりゃ困ったな。秘密にしてくださいよ。課長から内定の許可はもらってないんですから。
Oishi-san had suspected Mion for a long time.
事情聴取も家宅捜査もとにかく何にも許可が下りないんですよ。園崎本家を守ろうという園崎家の防衛機能がガッキガキに作用しちゃってるらしくて、令状がなくちゃ私たち現行犯以外は何にも手出しできませんからね。
大石さんってひょっとして。
Rena's tone of voice alone was enough to make her spite clear as she stared at Oishi-san.
園崎家に踏み込めないものだから圭一君に踏み込ませようとしてたんじゃないですか？
レナ、それはどういう意味だ？
この人は私の想像通りならとても卑劣な人。
That he does. But I'm still having trouble gauging whether he's really dirty in the sense that he just wants to get to the bottom of all this, or dirty in the sense that he has some other ulterior motive that we don't know about.
人聞きが悪いですね。でもお説は拝聴しますよ。
Oishi-san lit a cigarette and responded to Rena, wearing an expression implying he was calm and willing to let her comments
あ
slide.
なたは令状が取れないけれどみーちゃんが怪しいとずっと狙いをつけていた。圭一君を焚きつけて園崎家へ向かわせようと企んだ。そして圭一君に何かがあればそれを口実に踏み込むつもりだった。そうでしょう。
I only understood about half of what Rena was saying. I knew, however, that Oishi-san had been trying to use me.
その結果圭一君が襲われるかもしれないのに恥知らず。これが警察のやり方なの？
いやいや、こりゃとんだところに名探偵がいたもんです。いやはやいやはや、あなたうちの試験受ける気ありません？刑事課配属の推薦状書いてあげてもいいですよ。
卑劣か。
Rena spoke quietly, her words dripping with hostility.
私もいろんな悪口を言われたもんですが、若いお嬢さんの短い一言が一番答えますよ。
でも結果として今日までみーちゃんを逮捕しなかったことには感謝しておきますね。
そりゃどうも。
Oishi-san seemed to be enjoying his exchange with Rena. The things this man thought were like a swamp. I could barely see past the surface. It reminded me again of how much I disliked him.
さて、その園崎美音さんの親友であらせられるお二人は、私が証拠固めを終えて、令状が請求できるまで、のんびり待っててくれるわけですかな。
That's not gonna happen, so you're clearly bluffing there.
そんなの待ちません。私たちが行ってみーちゃんを自首させます。
That's right. If she turned herself in rather than be arrested, she might get a lighter sentence. At this point, perhaps that was the only pity I could find in me to afford her.
さてさて、そんなにうまくいくでしょうかね。
Of course it will not. Absolutely not.
下手すりゃ、あなたたちも無事では済まないかもしれませんよ。
Oishi-san was measuring our resolve. So, in a strong voice, I declared,
そんなのは覚悟の上です。
Oishi-san gave us an unpleasant yet seemingly satisfied grin. It was then that I realized this man was trying to use us for his own convenience.
もし私たちに何かあったなら、それを口実に踏み込んでください。犯人を取り逃がさないように、ぐるりと取り囲んでくださるのが一番の希望なんですが。
竜宮さんは交渉も上手です。参りましたよ。降参です。
どういうことだよ。
警察の人がこれが万が一の時の保険になるの。万が一の時の。
Plus, it would be another way of pressuring Mion to give herself up, wouldn't it?
ああ、大石より熊ちゃんへ。大石より熊ちゃんへ。
I really don't see this ending well at all. And I'm really surprised that Rena is going along with it, but then again, I don't think she has much choice. Like, I feel like she's not exactly although she is more competent than she appears, she's not some mastermind who has the answers to everything. She's just, I don't know.
お友達が2人、園崎家へ遊びに行きます。増援をかけられるよう準備だけよろしく願います。
Their altogether too short conversation implied that our questioning was already a part of their plans.
では、参りましょうか。お茶菓子でも買っていきます？
Neither Rena nor I went along with Oishi-san's stupid joke. Alright, let's see how this goes. This is certainly taking a turn for the interesting, I guess, because this is not how I pictured this going at all, but who knows? Maybe things will just... Okay, I couldn't even finish that sentence with a straight face. I was going to say, maybe things will just turn out amicably. Everything will turn out fine. Yeah, there's no way that's going to happen. Oishi stopped the car at the place where we always waited for Mion. Come to think of it, I've never been to Mion's house before. I've only heard that it's right down the road. Or down this road.
お送りできるのはここまでです。情報では、園崎本家は自宅周辺に監視カメラをかなり配置しているらしいんですよ。でもご安心を。何度か死角をついて突入できる位置に若いのが何人か待機してます。指向性マイクで中を伺ってますから、お二人が大きな悲鳴を上げてくださればすぐにわかりますよ。
絶対に説得しますから、自首を認めてくださいね。
In both our eyes was determination. It was the only method available to us for lightening the sins of our good friend. Of course, we're all just assuming that she's guilty here. What if she's not? Like, we can convince her, we can try and convince her that to turn herself in, but if she's not actually guilty, then she would never go along with that. She would just see us as, like, betraying her, basically. So, I don't know. We're really gonna have to play our cards carefully here.
くれぐれも注意してください。今さら信じないでしょうが、できることならあなたたちに犠牲になってほしくないんですから。
本当に今さらだな。
With that rude response, we left the car. The clinging humidity and voices of the cicadas greeted us. I'd never have expected this would be happening today.
行こうケイチ君。
Rena took the lead and began to walk. Down the road I'd never been.
レナはミオンの家には行ったことがあるんだよな。
Well, probably, but we know that she has been there in Onikakushi, but that didn't necessarily translate to her having been in there, or been there in this one. But she's probably been there before.
何度もあるよ。とても大きな家でね。お庭なんか山が丸ごと入るくらいあるんだよ。松茸が取れるとかなんとかで、いつもは柵がしてあるんだけどね。
Big enough to fit a mountain. That was amazing. One of the three families controlling Hinamizawa, and the head family of the Sonozaki clan. Perhaps there was something to be said about its magnitude. The path continued onward, level and uneventful. There were metal fences along its edges, and beyond them were woods with trees growing thickly. The fences were high, the tops of them bent inwards, sticking out like sharp spears. Plus, there was dangerous-looking barbed wire wrapping them. No one could look at them and not feel intimidated. In addition, there were signboards hung up here and there along the fence. Private property of the Sonozaki family. Entrance forbidden. Beware of venomous snakes. Active security cameras. Intruders will be charged an entry fee of 1 million yen.
この森、いや、山か。まるまる庭なのか。
庭というか、領地だね。見ての通り私有地ではあるけど、手入れも何もしてないから、散策ができるような気持ちいい森というわけでもないし。
She could say that again. It really did feel like a neglected savage woodland. It was dark and damp, and certainly not a forest that made you want to go for a nice walk. Maybe that's just what happens when a landowner has too much land. Like Oishi-san said, there were security cameras hung up all over the place. Though they had been weathered by wind and rain, casting doubt as to whether they were even functional.
俺たちが来るの、ミオンはあれを通して見てるんだろうか。
見てないと思うな。だってみーちゃんの家は基本的におばあちゃんとみーちゃん本人の2人しか住んでないんだもの。カメラを見張ってる人がいないし。
What a useless security system.
みーちゃんのお父さんがいろいろ大変な人みたいでね。だから一族がみんなで集まるときにはちゃんと機能しているらしいよ。
That's right. Mion's father, he was a big-shot Yakuza, wasn't he? Rena smoothly danced around the answer as she explained. At last, a huge gate, as big as I'd imagined, appeared. Was she living by herself with her grandmother, in a house with such a grand gateway?
いるかな。
The old buzzer made a dull sound. Was it cut off in the middle and not getting to the house? We waited long enough without a response for me to start thinking like that. However, we finally heard footsteps walking through gravel on the other side of the gate. I nervously balled my hands, my palms now sweating into fists. There was the clang of a bolt being released, and the gate opened slightly. The person peeking out of the gap was none other than Mion.
こんな時間に珍しいね。二人とも学校は？
Mion didn't seem all that surprised at visitors arriving in the morning, which wasn't a normal time. In fact, she almost seemed relaxed, as if she knew we were coming beforehand.
学校は休んだよ。
ケイちゃんはともかく、レナも？
I feel like that's almost like her kind of that has like a double meaning. It's almost like she's saying, "Oh, you're with him, you're joining him, you're betraying me too," something like that.
二人とも不良なんだからな。
Mion smiled lightly in the way that the Mion we knew always did.
立ち話もなんでしょ。入りなよ。
She gestured for us to follow her. I hesitated for a moment, looking at Rena.
行こう。
Rena smiled cheerfully as if she were passing through the gate of a good friend's house, and then did just that. I rally myself and then go through the gate too. On the other side, it hadn't been maintained very well, but it was clear that the lot was magnificently wide. It wasn't quite what you'd think of when you hear mansion, but it was very clearly a vast place.
ケイちゃんはうちに来るの初めてだったっけ？
ああ、でけえ家じゃねえか。
今時合掌造りなんて流行らないよ。観光資源にはなるかもしれないけどね。私は早くごくごく平均的な鉄筋コンクリートに建て替えてほしいと思ってるよ。
Mion dryly smiled as she said that, then closed the gate and relocked the heavy bolt.
気にしないで。最近は物騒だからね。日中でもこれくらいはしておかないと。
ああ、そうだな。
Maybe it was my imagination, but I thought I saw the hint of a shadow in her smile. This is going to be difficult to win her over. Maybe nigh impossible. We'll see.
では、ご案内申し上げます。どうぞこちらへ。
Mion bowed to us like a worker at a high-class hotel, then pivoted on her heel and began to walk. Rena gripped my stiffening arm lightly.
ケイチ君、硬くなりすぎかな。私たちはみーちゃんに会いに来たんだよ。そんなに緊張することはないんだから。
That's right. When I get nervous, I tend to let everything show on my face. I'll stop tensing up. Even if something were to happen, there were two of us. Oishi's subordinates were waiting outside the gate for us too. There was nothing to worry about. After thinking about it that much, I realized my nervousness was already gone and laughed at myself.
なんだこりゃ。ミオン、この新聞紙の上に置いてある漬物石はなんだ？邪魔だぞ。
There was a pile of newspapers on the floor of the entrance, and there was a large rock on top of them. I didn't understand why something like that was here. Rena noticed me looking at it questioningly and
レ
giggled.
ナは知ってるのか？これはなんだ？何かのおまじないか？
ケイちゃんがよくわからないなら、それをどかしてそこに靴を脱いでもいいんだけど。
ケイチ君、その石の真上にね、ツバメの巣があるの。
Ah,
え？あ、本当だ。
人様の家なのにツバメが勝手に入ってきて巣を作ってるってわけ。代々語り継いでるのか、季節になると決まってここに巣を作るんだよ。迷惑してるんだけどね。
つまりね、そこはツバメの糞とかが落ちてきて危ないから靴を脱がないようにっていう目印なの。
I couldn't help but laugh at the silly contrivance. My laughter naturally spread to the other two.
園崎家も大昔養蚕とかやってたことがあるらしくてね。ご先祖様はツバメ退治に躍起になったそうだけどね。それを思うとこれはちょっと罰当たりなのかな。ま、上がって上がって。
The inside of the house wasn't very bright at all. I feel like I should point out that whole statement that she just made about the swallows, and they're getting their comeuppance for going really hard on trying to exterminate the swallows in the past could be kind of a metaphor for what's going on now as well, with potentially maybe everybody being suspicious of them because of how they were in the past when they're actually not actually behind anything this time. But I don't know, we'll see. It was dimly lit, in fact, but mysteriously I could still feel an elegance to the place. Mion seemed to want a more modern building, but traditional houses like this aren't bad either.
冗談でしょ。隙間風は入るし、冬場は寒いし。人の家を勝手に文化財にして改築を妨害しないでもらいたいね。一番の理想はケイちゃんの家でしょ。あれは羨ましいよな。冬場は暖かそうだし。あ、でも雪下ろしは大変かもね。
雪下ろしは大変って、そんなに雪が降るのか、ひなみ沢は。緯度は関東より南なくらいだろ。ここいらって暖かい土地なんじゃないのか。
I don't think just latitude matters, I think also elevation.
ケイチくん知らないの？ひなみ沢は豪雪地帯なんだよ。大雪が降るとみんな埋まっちゃうの。玄関なんか埋まっちゃう時もあるんだよ。止めた車が完全に埋まっちゃって見つからないことだってあるんだから。
I wasn't aware of that. Also, just like random weird fluctuations of weather and all that. It's not necessarily anything to, like, there's no guarantee of anything when it comes to weather. Hinamizawa was that bad a place in the winter. Come to think of it, my dad, he said something like, this place got plenty of snow, so we would have fun building igloos. Still, your front door getting buried, not being able to find your car. That's way too much snow.
地理の授業で習ったでしょ。日本海側は大陸からの寒風がそのまま流れてくるからね。
Yeah, that makes sense.
山脈で遮られてぬくぬくしてるような軟弱な太平洋側とはわけが違うんだから。
俺、軟弱でもぬくぬくでも何でもいい。寒いのは嫌だ。
これは今年の冬はケイちゃんを寒さに慣らすための強化合宿が必要だね。
I hope that she's being sincere about that. But, I don't know.
嫌だ嫌だ、全力で嫌だ。寒いのは嫌いだ。強化合宿も嫌いだ。両方合わさったらもっと嫌いだ。
Mion laughed more uproariously than she ever had, then told us she'd bring out some tea, and left her seat for the moment.
でもね、冬は冬で楽しいことがいっぱいあるんだよ。冬の部活もね、きっと楽しいんだよ。
冬の部活か。実に嫌な響きのある部活だぞ。寒中水泳やら雪中行軍やら。ここはいつから八甲田山になったんだ。
うん、確かに冬場の罰ゲームは辛いのが多いね。雪が降ってる校庭でリオのカーニバルをさせられたことある。
I see the terror of our club cared not for the season. The victor would be decided by who could best adapt to the winter-only events.
雪合戦もやるし、かき氷の大食いとか雪中宝探しとか。
だからなんで外で遊ぶんだよ。雪が降ってんだからぬくぬくとお部屋でテーブルゲームで遊べばいいじゃないかよ。
ケイチくん、そんなこと言ってると冬場はいっぱい負けちゃうかもね。ケイチくん、罰ゲームいっぱいでレナは負けない。
はうじゃねえ。
I settled things with a cross chop to the head.
盛り上がってるな。壁が薄いんだからぶち抜かないようにしてよね。
The paper sliding door opened, and Mion returned with a pot and a complete tea set.
お茶受けはごませんでいい？羊羹とか気の利いたものがなくて申し訳ないね。
あ、いいよいいよ。別にお茶を飲みに来たわけじゃないし。
And with those words, the smile disappeared from Reina's face. Ah, she did it. That one careless statement reminded us of what we had nearly been able to forget. I had wanted to enjoy this peaceful time for a little longer, but we put an end to that with those, honestly, careless words. When she noticed the smile disappear from Reina's expression, Mion, too, changed hers. It was as if the cheerful air, that was like a warm spring day until a moment ago, had slipped through the cracks in the paper door. and altogether disappeared. There was no point in regretting it now. We did not come here today to chat and enjoy ourselves. Mion silently poured the tea. During that time, both Rena and I sat kneeling without uttering a word.
どうぞ召し上がれ。
We couldn't even mutter a word of acknowledgement at those natural words of courtesy.
毒なんか入ってないよ。そこまで信用ないかな。心外だね。
Mion gave a bitter smile at that and let her shoulders droop. We all remained silent. We remained silent, hoping that someone else would speak up first. That was, however, the one thing we didn't want to do, and so we sat for a long time. At last, Mion smiled scornfully and opened her mouth to speak.
おいおい、ケイちゃんもレナも客はそっちなんだよ。用があって来たんじゃないの。そっちから切り出してくれなきゃ、おじさんも困っちゃうんだけどな。
Rena and I exchanged glances. I really hope that Keiichi doesn't screw this up, and we open with the apology, and not the, you should give yourself up, or anything like that. We both resigned ourselves. Rena opened her mouth to speak first, so I stopped her.
ケイチ君。
いいんだ。俺は来るべくして来たんだ。俺から喋らせてくれ。
うん。わかった。
ケイちゃんが私に何の話かな。お宅のお嬢さんを私にください。ダメだよ。うちのレナはケイちゃんとは釣り合わないね。味噌汁で顔を洗って出直しておいで。
Afterwards, I thought her mean remarks were Mion's own way of showing consideration. Okay, there's an afterwards. So, that's good. Unfortunately, it doesn't mean much, but there's an afterwards, so we're gonna survive this conversation at least. Mion had said those mean things in a totally normal voice, and it drained the tension from my shoulders.
ミオ、まず謝ることがある。
ケイちゃんが何を？
Mion pretended that she didn't know what I was talking about, but I'd clearly gotten my point across.
Watanagashiの晩、俺は神社の祭具殿に入ったんだ。
I could see Mion's expression immediately become harder.
入ってはいけない場所だったのは知ってた。でも、ほんのちょっとした探検のつもりで悪気はなかったんだよ。でも、いけないことだったんだよな。謝る。この通り。
To display my deepest sincerity, I pressed my forehead to the table. I'd meant it as my way of prostrating myself. I figured it wouldn't feel sincere enough if I raised my head right away, so I left it there on the table for a while. Mion didn't say anything. With my face down, I couldn't tell what sort of expression Mion had. Only the voices of the cicadas filled the room. Mixed with them, I could hear the sound of the clock ticking. That was all. When I started to struggle to breathe from having my head down for so long, Mion told me to stop.
参ったな。いきなり直球勝負で来るとは思わなかったよ。参った参った。
I looked up to see that Mion's face was calm, but she was smiling faintly.
ケイちゃんにとっては面白半分の探検でも、それが笑い事では済まないと思ってる人たちも大勢いるってことを。それでいいよ。郷に入りては郷に従えって昔から言うもんね。
あれからもう何日も経ってる。今更だとは思うが、謝る。悪かった。許してくれ。
I could feel pitiful tears welling up within me. If I'd done this sooner, maybe nothing terrible would have happened.
いいよ。ケイちゃんが悪いことをしたと思ったならそれでいいんじゃない？
Mion spoke like it was someone else's problem, and I wasn't happy about it.
兄ちゃん、ケイチ君はちゃんと真面目に謝ってるんだよ。 みーちゃんも真剣に答えてあげるべきじゃないのかな
私は真剣だよ。レナには私が不真面目そうに
見えるよ。
Rena was giving her tit for tat, and so the room's atmosphere quickly began to grow sharper. She was right. Even though I came here to speak from the heart like this, it felt like she hasn't been taking this seriously. Like I said, it's going to be difficult to win her over. Obviously, Rena isn't fond of that.
ケイチくん、もういいよ。全部話そう。兄ちゃんもそれを望んでいるようだし。
I had known it would turn out like this from the beginning. Hadn't I come here prepared for that? I mustered my willpower and bit my lip.
ミオ、おとといリカちゃんとサトコを呼んだろ。
覚えはないけど、そう思うに足る根拠があるなら聞かせてもらえる？
夕方過ぎのお夕食前の時間、リカちゃんが来たはずだよ。お醤油の大瓶を持ってお裾分けしてもらいに。
Mian was trying to keep from showing any reaction, but I didn't miss her eyelid twitching just a little bit.
どうしてそう思う？
そんなに難しい話じゃない。みーちゃんも見たでしょ？リカちゃんの部屋。
Mian put a finger to her forehead and acted like she was thinking.
冷ややっこがあるのにお醤油がなかった。そして流しの下にあるはずの醤油の大瓶も瓶ごとなかった。
何それ？それが私のとこへ来る理由になるわけ？
ミオ、いい加減にしろ。お前が自分で回覧板に書いたんじゃないか。醤油をお裾分けするって。
Mian scratched her head. I heard her ever so faintly click her tongue. It was as though we found out she'd purposely given too little change to a servant. That's all I could feel from her.
そしてみーちゃんはリカちゃんを隠してしまった。
Rena hesitated for a moment. I could tell that she didn't want to use the word erased, and that she was struggling to find another word.
そして本当はそれで終わりのはずだったんだよね、みーちゃんにとっては。
そりゃあどういう意味かな？
リカちゃんがみーちゃんの家に行くことをさとこちゃんに言い残していたのは誤算だったんじゃないかな。そしてさとこちゃんはみーちゃんの家に電話をした。うちのリカがお邪魔してませんこと？うん、きっとこんな感じ。
似てる似てる。
みーちゃんはちょっとまずいと思ったんだよね。リカちゃんがここに来たことを知る人間がいたから。だからさとこちゃんも誘い出そうと思った。
I'm really gonna have to look back at that outburst that Mian had at the ladder, and see if what she said could apply to this situation at all, because it didn't really feel like it could have.
誘い出す？へえ、どんな感じでかな？
Mian prodded Rena on as if trying to get to the good part of an interesting story. I, however, knew. I had been watching Mian change the whole time. She was restlessly twirling her fingers. She had clearly lost her calm. Of course, it was really a slight thing, and only I, who had been watching her this whole time, would have known. Mian was panicking. What Rena was saying must have been a bullseye.
きっとこんな感じだよ。さとこ、実は今日食事を作りすぎちゃったんだけど食べに来ない？リカちゃんは先に来てもう食べてるよ。こんな感じ。
Scratch. Mian's nails dug into her knee.
へえ、電話の内容の記録テープがあるわけでもないのに、どうしてそこまで？
冷蔵庫にさとこちゃんの作った2人分のお夕食がまるまる手つかずでラップに包まれて入ってたから。
For a few moments, Mian's face was frozen in utter amazement. She looked like she couldn't believe that this person in front of her was Rena.
そんなことでどうやったら電話で喋った内容まで察しがついちゃうわけ？
She's kind of pulling the same thing she pulled in the first chapter. She's really good at that, unfortunately.
長くなるから説明は省くけど、冷蔵庫の中身がみーちゃんの呼び出した話の内容まで如実に物語っちゃってるの。
Mion's jaw remained on the floor. That was the only way I could describe her face.
これは
I really don't think this is gonna end well. I know I said that we're sure we survived this conversation, but that doesn't necessarily mean it ends well.
とんだ名探偵が身近にいたもんだよ。まさか冷蔵庫の中身だけで電話の内容まで見破るとは。参ったな。参った参った。
As if a dam had burst, Mion convulsed into laughter. Her laughter, though, definitely didn't make us want to laugh as well. Yeah, it's the same laughter as before. Mion grew tired of her dumb laughter, heaved a big sigh, and scratched her head. It almost seemed like Mion had lost a detective punishment game for the club or something, and her punishment had been decided. Oh, how fun that would have been if it were true.
とんだ名探偵か。みーちゃんこそ大石さんがした会話の内容までよく察しがつくね。大石さんも私のこととんだ名探偵って言ったもの。
As soon as she heard Oishi's name, Mion's eyes began to display panic more clearly so that anyone would be able to tell.
ミオ、警察はもうとっくにお前を疑ってるんだ。この家も大石さんの部下が踏み込もうと今も様子を伺ってる。
Mion attempted to feign calm, but it looked like she was having a hard time with that. Part of her couldn't believe that the police had her surrounded, and she closely examined Reina's facial expression. However, she couldn't detect a hint of falsehood. Finally, Mion seemed to accept the fact that the police were encircling the house.
村長さんもみーちゃんが
富武さんと高野さんもミオンなのか？
Mion didn't answer our rapid-fire questions. I could clearly see impatience in her eyes, which were still feigning calm. At last, Mion, who had been sitting there lazily, readjusted her cushion and sat herself upright. At that moment, the atmosphere in the room changed completely. Mion's expression also changed. Oh boy, here it comes. The impatience and wonderment in her expression disappeared. She became so solemn you would think she was about to conduct a tea ceremony. I could sense it. It was now, in this moment. Mion had ceased to be Mion, but had changed into Mion Sonozaki, the current heir to the Sonozaki house. Okay. It's not exactly what I expected. That solemn atmosphere about her was clearly abnormal, and was entirely different from that of the Mion that I knew. Now, I could believe it. Now I could believe that she was the young leader who commanded the entire Sonozaki clan. Mion quietly placed both her hands on the tatami mat, and gave a beautifully elegant bow, as if this really were a tea ceremony, and named herself.
初めてご挨拶申し上げます。
There's that split personality, maybe, that Oishi was talking about in the first episode.
園崎本家当主跡継ぎミオンでございます。
Mion's movements were so elegant they could cut, and we couldn't even answer her. All Reina and I could do was watch, baffled at her actions, which we could never imagine the normal her doing.
本日はようこそ園崎本家においでくださいました。当主お領に代わりまして皆様にご挨拶申し上げます。皆様におかれましては いろいろお尋ねになりたいことがおありの様子。私にお話しできることでしたら、包み隠さずお話ししたいと存じます。
What? What did Mion just say? Mion said she would answer anything we asked. There was a strong light of resolve in her
本
eyes.
当に何を尋ねてもいいんだな。
知る限りをお話しいたしましょう。皆様もそれを望んでここにいらしたのでしょうから。
Rena and I exchanged glances. There was a mountain of things we wanted to ask Mion. However, we hesitated for a moment on what we should ask first. The first question Rena gave was extremely abstract, but it was the question everyone wanted to know right now.
どうしてこんなことを？
That was what I wanted to ask as well. Why would you do this? That didn't only go for Rika-chan and Satoko. It went for the mayor, Takano-san, and Tomitake-san as well. No, even further back, for all the incidents that had been occurring every year. For a little while, Mion couldn't respond. Right when we realized that the question was too vague and tried to put it into more concrete terms, she finally opened her mouth to speak.
その問いに対する答えは少し長いものになります。それでもよろしければどうかご清聴いただきたく存じます。
She spoke clearly. She spoke with a clarity that a grandmother might use when telling a story from a long time ago.
ひなみ沢村がかつて鬼ヶ淵村と呼ばれていたことをご存知ですか？
Rena nodded lightly, then shot me a glance asking me if I did. I returned her nod. Hinamizawa was once called Onigafuchi Village, yes. I heard all about it that night from Takano-san in the ritual storehouse. They firmly believed that demon blood ran through their veins and cut off all contact with the outside world. They were worshipped by those in the villages of the foot of the mountains, and treated like transcendents, those capable of magic.
そうです。鬼ヶ淵村のご先祖様たちは鬼の血を引く誇り高き仙人たちでした。麓の村々の人たちは崇め、そして敬いました。ですが、そういう空気も徳川の世が終わるとともに廃れていきました。
The black ships arrived. The era of the samurai ended. The era of national isolation ended. And the tradition of worshipping Onigafuchi village quickly disappeared. Those things that linger from the past were all to be detested. That was the kind of era it became.
明治になり、古い歴史を持つ鬼ヶ淵村の名称は一方的にひなみ沢村に改められてしまいました。古い因習を一掃しようとする明治政府の思惑が強く働いたのだと聞かされています。
The abolition of feudal domains and the establishment of prefectures. An era had begun, seeing Japan sprinting up the stairs that were beyond their means to try and reach the same level of the rest of the world. All things in the Western style were to be extolled, while all old traditional things were to be scorned. That was the sort of era it was.
そういう時代の激変の中で滝壺に落ちていく花びらのようにあっという間に鬼ヶ淵村は消えてしまったのです。
At last, Japan, provoked by the great European powers colonizing countries in Asia one by one, began a policy to increase its wealth and military power so that it could stand as a global power in its own right. Conscription began, and they won war after war. The First Sino-Japanese War and the Russo-Japanese War. And until the Pacific War broke out, they recklessly climbed the staircase toward modernization.
この頃にはもう鬼ヶ淵村の不可侵性は失われていました。
かつて仙人と崇められた村人たちは否認扱いを受け、神聖な鬼ヶ淵村はいつの間にか疫病患者の隔離集落の慣れの果てであるという根も葉もないレッテルを貼られ、苦難の時代を迎えることになったのでした。
Thus began harsh days where one would suffer unreasonable discrimination just because people knew one was from Onigafuchi. The children in the village at the foot of the mountain were taught not to go near Hinamizawa because filthy germs were rampant there. Children who had come into contact with children in Hinamizawa would cry and wail as their parents purified the spot they were touched by rubbing salt on it. One of the adults said to the children that if you got lost in Hinamizawa, you would be kidnapped by demons, cut up into pieces, and devoured. Never ever go near the terrifying village of the man-eating demons. That's what he taught them. Another said that during a famine long ago, the people of Hinamizawa gathered up all the corpses they discarded into the dry riverbeds, and cooked and ate them in order to survive. Groundless stories, but said in such seriousness. Baseless slander added to baseless slander, making Onigafuchi Village's historically accurate, thrilling history all the more believable. Perhaps the chain of undue discrimination was a manifestation of the people's anxiety toward the uncertain times. Of course, the story didn't end only with the perspective of children. If anyone found out you were from Onigafuchi, you would be turned down from any job you applied for. People would even go back on engagements and marriage proposals. As for the marriages where one partner had lied about it, as soon as the truth got out, they were made to divorce.
裁判も起こしました。出身の問題は離婚する重要な理由にはなり得ないと訴えて、でも敗訴しました。出身の虚偽は結婚の上での重大な詐称行為にあたるのだそうで。
ひどいね、そんなの。
I've heard about such discrimination toward those in small villages in civics class. Just because others knew you were from a tiny hamlet, you'd be subjected to every societal disadvantage there was. A modern form of bullying. Though I only memorized that because it was going to be on a test one time. I recalled being suspicious about it and unable to believe such discrimination occurred in modern Japan.
自業自得と言えないこともないのかもしれません。私たちのご先祖様は自分たちに鬼の血が流れていることを誇りに思い自慢し、麓の人々を蔑んで暮らしてきたのですからね。その神秘性で麓の村人たちを怖がらせ、畏怖と貢ぎ物の献上を要求してきたのですから。
With that, Neon smiled for the first time, albeit in self-mockery.
太平洋戦争中は国民一丸のスローガンが流れながらも、南沢村の人々はさまざまな差別を受け続けました。
数え出したらキリがないくらい夫や息子を戦場に送り出し、15の女たちも心がすさんでいたのでしょうね。
当時をよく覚えている祖母は、それは苦しい時代だったと回想しています。
Even that bitterly long war, however, finally ended in 1945.
多数の男手を失ったひなみ沢にも、ようやく父や夫、息子たちが戻ってまいりました。もちろん帰らぬ者も多かった。それでも男手がなく村を維持することにすら限界をきたしていたひなみ沢にとって、それはとても喜ばしいことでした。
MacArthur's GHQs set to work on drastically improving mindsets, and strove for the abolition of unfair discrimination. They could feel day breaking on the dismal night that was the previous era.
廃村寸前だったひなみ沢をもう一度立て直そう。そういう機運が高まり、村人たちは村を少しでも豊かにするために働き始めました。
During that time, someone appeared who built up a fortune through a vast number of dealings in the black market. That was Mion's grandfather, the husband of the elderly current family leader, Sohei Sonozaki.
宗平は中国大陸に出兵し、ハルピンで食料倉庫の管理をしていたといい、撤退時に上官や仲間たちと共謀して軍の缶詰をごっそりと盗み出していたのです。それを瀬戸内海某所に隠し、闇市で高値で売りさばいて大きな富を得たのです。
I wonder if that has anything to do with that canned flesh incident that Mio was talking about. Sohei didn't spend that fortune for his own pleasure either. He entrusted the entire amount to his wife, the head of the Sonozaki house.
廃れたひなみ沢を復興させよう。村人すべては家族である。この富は共有の財産である。現当主である祖母はそう宣言しました。この大きな富はその後のひなみ沢の復興の大きな力となったのです。
I see. With that, Hinamizawa came back to life. And that's how the Sonozaki family had established its current prosperity.
もちろん、闇市で財を成したことを妬む人たちも大勢いましたが、もう村人は気にしなかった。
They succeeded at one business venture after another. Those who had succeeded freely supported those who followed them. A giant family of Hinamizawa, tied together with strong bonds, kept on expanding its influence. The Sonozaki family, the center of everything, would be extolled for a long time as the minds behind Hinamizawa's revitalization.
その活躍の中心人物がみーちゃんのおばあちゃんなんだね。すごいよね。大活躍。
Mion looked like she was honestly happy Rena had praised her.
ですが、昭和30年頃にまたしても逆風が吹き始めます。それが缶詰疑惑でした。
Oh, so they're actually talking about it. I was thinking that Mion was just gonna hide this from us, but it seems like she's actually being pretty forthright here. Canned flesh. It sounded so hideous that just hearing it made me nauseous.
園崎宗平の上官だったと名乗る男が彼の調達した缶詰は実は食材を用いたものではなかったのだと。
Hinamizawa, a village in which demons lived and ate humans. They were just about to wipe away that cursed stigma. The light that they had finally started to see in their peaceful lives grew hazy and disappeared. The shocking truth as revealed by his former superior. The stolen provisions from the old Japanese army that had been a huge cornerstone for Hinamizawa's revival had been canned human flesh. Why were there cans like that? Wasn't Sohei just the manager of food warehouses? His superior revealed that Sohei Sonozaki did not have the job of managing the food. In reality, Sohei's job during the war had been to exterminate pestilent mice and to transport the corpses of those with infectious diseases. It had been unfair treatment, and all because of the lowliness of his origins. As a result, though, he had returned safely without having been sent to the front lines or being detained. Perhaps that was the only fortunate thing to happen to him. Finally, Sohei was enlisted as an assistant at a military medical institution. There, however, he found something even worse than the low, scorned, depressing customs of Onigafuchi village. In the research they were carrying out, Could that have been, well, you know, a bacteriological course in the old Japanese army or whatever? Keiichi-kun, you've heard of that. What could it be? See, now it has me wondering what's going on here in the censored version, but I doubt it's going to be that different, but... I was pretty sure it was Unit 731. It was a nightmare unit that devoted itself to researching terrifying bacteriological weapons to break the deadlock in the war. They used many innocent people as fodder for horrible human experiments. They methodically observed how many days a new strain would take to kill the victims. How many days it would be when injected. How many days it would be when swallowed. They dissected many people to find that out. Sometimes they wouldn't bother waiting until they were dead, and dissected them while they were still alive. They would strap them into centrifuges while still alive, and crush them in decompression chambers while still alive. When a live human decompresses, all the holes in their body get pushed outward and their intestines get pushed out of their anus like a snake winding out of it. Alright, thank you for the image there. I have a feeling I saw something like that on a documentary one time. That makes me sick. And they still hate Hinamizawa, huh? You said it. Neon agreed with me, giving a faint, sad smile. It wasn't much in the way of communication, but for some reason I was happy to have it right now.
僧兵がいた部隊はより現実的で温情的な研究をしていました。それは戦地での困難な食料調達に関する具体的な手法の研究でした。
The military's designs at the start of the war completely fell apart, and a chronic food shortage broke out all over the battlefront. The food shortage led to malnutrition, and as their natural resistance is lowered, the soldiers fell to one disease after another. Spirit and morale lowered as well. They wouldn't be able to maintain their forces at this rate. Apparently that's where the research started. At first, it was to find methods of delivering food to battlefields. It was very broad and included things from violent methods like stealing it from citizens to survival methods like how to cook unfamiliar insects and plant life. I mean, it definitely sounds like they might have tried some cannibalism there. And it might have had something to do with the historical role that cannibalism played in Onigafuchi. As they were working out the details, they kept straying off course and going out of control, until finally they knocked down a door called Taboo. Oh yeah, she's just telling us it straight up happened.
戦場で一番入手しやすいタンパク源は何だと思います？
Rena and I knew the answer without being told, so we didn't answer.
そう、彼らは通常は食しないものを食材として扱う方法を研究していたのです。彼らは時には敵に、時には望まぬ食物をハンデでも戦い抜くことが国に報いる究極の方針になる。そういう競技を大真面目に組み上げていったのです。滑稽な話ですね。
I mean, it totally makes sense from a perspective of, like, this is something that could realistically happen back then in a war like that. And especially given the history and all that. I don't know, I feel like, although Mion is telling it from her perspective, it's not necessarily portraying it in much of a better light.
祖父を過去のことで蔑んでおきながら、自分たちはさらにその上を言っていたのですから。
Okay, wait, hold on. The unit he was in did way kinder research than that. Oh, okay, yeah, never mind. I was gonna say, I thought that, So basically she's just saying that they went way beyond eating human flesh by torturing people and stuff. Which, yeah.
祖父はいつも思っていたそうです。たとえ世間の噂がどうあれ、彼らはそれよりもはるかに醜い鬼なんだと。 いくら蔑まれたってちっとも答えないと。
At last, they had a handful of test prototypes. When the soldiers learned it was human flesh, however, the scientists couldn't make anyone eat it. So it was apparently sent to the front lines. The cans were labeled meat substitutes, and so that they wouldn't accidentally eat it themselves, they stamped the bottoms with a circle.
前線の兵隊さんにはどの試作品もとても好評だったそうです。中でも醤油で煮たすき焼き風のものが一番好評だったそうで。
I really hope that the tofu in the miso soup that they were cooking on that night when they were searching for Rika and Satoko was not Rika and Satoko.
もうやめてよみーちゃん。気分が悪くなってきた。
Rena really was pale-faced, and she looked like she was having difficulty continuing to sit on her knees. Neon looked like she had more to say, but she sighed lightly and stopped there.
じゃあそのミオンのじいさんが持ち帰ったという缶詰は
真偽はわかりません。晩年まで僧兵は世間の風評を否定し続けました。ですがひなみ沢の急激な復興を妬む人々はその疑惑を真実のように面白おかしく書き立て、村人をまたしても蔑み始めたのです。また子供たちが生やし立てられ石を投げつけられる時代に戻ってしまったのです。
The stifling silence came back. What a seriously hopeless and sad story it was. They discriminated, were discriminated against, discriminated, and were discriminated against. Why must they attach worth and rank to it? Why can't they live without looking down on people? Why can't everyone enjoy life together? I didn't know.
当主である祖母はある時村の子供たちにこう言いました。
If they throw a stone at one of you, then two of you must throw stones back. The children asked her, what if they threw stones at two of us? Of course, the answer was
2
simple.
人に石を投げられたら4人で石を、8人に棒で覆われたら16人で追い返し、30人に中傷されたなら60人で怒鳴り返せと。
Finally, the children asked, what if we're attacked by 1,000 people? Even that answer was simple. Attack them back with 2,000.
1000人に襲われたならひなみ沢の全員で立ち向かいなさいと。それは決起を促す劇のようですらありました。祖母は園崎本家当主としてだけでなくひなみ沢の母太郎として立ち上がったのです。
It was halfway through 1955. It was a time when riots over the treaty with the US were rampant, a time of battle and action. The people of Inamizawa joined together and fought, treating unfair discrimination toward one as a crime against all, treating unfair discrimination towards one as a crime against them all. It didn't matter that one was a child or an adult. If they heard that a child had been told off, then everyone would crowd the house of the perpetrator, acting as a whole. If they heard an adult had been treated unfairly, men and women, young and old, would all band together and stand up against it. If you meddled with people from Inamizawa, you would be in trouble. They probably figured that if they could make others think that, they'd win.
ケイちゃんも町で不良に絡まれた時、たくさんの人たちに助けられたのを思い出しませんか？
There's our 100% hard confirmation that that was Mion at that time, which we pretty much knew, but like 100% just driving that home. I recalled how much of an impression it had left on me. But the people of Inamizawa boldly came to my rescue, yet the people of Okinomiya averted their eyes so they wouldn't get involved.
祖母が戦い、両親がそれを引き継ぎ、ようやくひなみ沢にも平和が戻った。もっともその平和もとても薄い川の上に乗ったものです。この100年の歴史を見れば、今の平穏など揺れ返す天秤のたまたまの狭間としか言えないでしょう。
どうして？
Could I really have an opinion on such a long and difficult history when I hadn't moved here more than a year ago? Yet, I said it
ど
anyway.
うしてみんなで仲良く暮らし合えないんだよ。高野さんに聞いたお社様の昔話はどうなったんだよ。
Man and demon joined hands and lived together in harmony. Didn't know Yashida-sama remain in this world to watch over
お
that.
とぎ話です。人と鬼は実在しても、それを調停するお社様は実在しなかったということです。
それでお社様のたたりを起こすことになったの。
A cool gust of wind blows in from the outside, fluttering Mion's long, beautifully clear hair. Mion kept her refreshing smile without answering, and didn't even change her expression. But even that became a silent answer.
ひなみ沢村を再び鬼ヶ淵村のように崇められるに足る神聖な存在に、それが我ら鬼ヶ淵村の末裔の悲願であり、園崎本家の鬼を継ぐ者の宿命なのです。
鬼を継ぐ者？
我が園崎本家は代々当主の名に鬼の一字を加える習慣があるのです。
Oh yeah, it's not just the Sonosakis either. It's the Furudes, the Kimiyoshis as well.
私の名前を手のひらにでも書いていただければ一目瞭然かと。
I trace out the word Mion on the palm of my hand. Oh, she's right. The character for demon is in there.
名前だけではありませんよ。この体にも鬼が刻まれているのです。
When she said that, she quietly rose and began to lay her hand on her clothing.
いいよみーちゃん、見せる必要なんて全然ない。
I think she should, just so we know for sure that this is actually Mion, and not Chion somehow.
ありがとう。
With just that exchange, I guessed what she meant. Most likely, somewhere on her body, there was a permanent seal, such as a tattoo or marking, that proved that she inherited the demon. Mion didn't sit back down. She smoothly opened the paper door onto the porch. A refreshing breeze began to cleanse the damp air filling the room. Mion quietly gazed out at the wide yard for quite a while. On her shoulders was something I could never imagine the normal Mion carrying. It was the heavy, truly heavy history of Inamizawa. No, of Onigafuchi weighing down on them. What kind of words could I possibly say to a Mion like that? Rena wasn't saying anything to her either. Only the voices of the cicadas drowned out the silence. At last, after a long period of nothing, Mion murmured,
5年間の連続事件ね。私が直接関わったものもあるし、間接的に関わったものもある。
Well, there's our confirmation that she was related to some of them.
いくつかは園崎家だけでなく、他の御三家の君吉家や古出家が関わっているものもあるけど、そのすべての中心に私がいたと思う。
She said it all without turning around, with her back to us. At some point, her tone of voice had gone back to being the Mion we knew.
私は自分のしたことには信念を持ってるし、あるとすれば
私の跡継ぎも決まらないうちに舞台を退かねばならないことくらいかな。私を捕まえて、それで法治国家の体裁が整うなら、それも時代の流れかなって。この100年で一番平和なひなみ沢を見ながら引退できるのは、ひょっとすると歴代の園崎家の当主で一番の幸せなのかもしれないし。
Mion leaned a shoulder against the paper door, then slid down it and flopped on the ground. It was an act of such resignation that just seeing it made me hurt inside. The numerous terrible crimes Mion had been a part of suddenly began to fade from my mind. Hey, Mion, I don't care what happens after this. Can't you just try to struggle as much as you can? Try to run away? As soon as I began to think that way, Rena's ringing voice filled the room.
でもみーちゃんはリカちゃんとサトコちゃんを殺したんだよね。
The sharp points of her words stabbed into my chest, despite not being directed at me.
他の人のことは殺してもいいとも言わないよ。でもとにかくみーちゃんはリカちゃんとサトコちゃんを殺した。
Rena's words were more biting than any I had ever heard. Even now that we knew all the heavy history pressing down on Mion's shoulders, she had criticized her for killing our friends.
私が園崎家の役目を負うように、リカちゃんだって古出家の役目を負っていた。その役目が西宮殿を守ることだった。
See, I feel like maybe when Mion was talking about how Satoko was a cursed child and how she was like having a mental breakdown about that, she might have been kind of just like freaking out about how she really didn't have any reason to kill Satoko other than covering up Rika-chan's death. My chest tightened.
去年あたりからリカちゃんが言ってたのは知ってたんだよ。西宮殿の勘抜きが重くて辛い。もっと簡単な鍵に付け替えたいって。先代の神主さんでも重いと嘆いてた代物だからね。リカちゃんに辛いのは重々承知だった。
僕がちゃんと番をしますですから、もっと軽い鍵に変えてほしいなのです。
But she failed to guard it, unfortunately. I replied on the behalf of the Sonozaki family leader. Ever since the string of freak death incidents, there seem to be people who are insolent toward Oyashida-sama, so you shouldn't replace the lock with a simpler one. That said, the leader of the Kimiyoshi family, Old Man Kimiyoshi, he... If it's that difficult for you, Rika-chan, then I think it's okay to replace the lock, he said. The very fact that it was locked with a key was an indication of it being somewhere you mustn't enter. There's nobody bad enough to break through it and go inside, he said. Even if we were alike as leaders, I couldn't find it in me to argue with Old Man Kimiyoshi, since I owed him so much. In the end, we decided to change out the lock on the storehouse and switched it to a really cheap and light padlock.
おじいちゃん、本当に大丈夫なんですか？バッチャもできることなら鍵は前のままの方が良かったと言ってます。
大丈夫だよ。心配性だな。何かあったらおじいちゃんがちゃんと責任を取ってあげるから。
本当ですね。君吉家の当主として責任を取られるという意味ですね。おじいちゃんもこの中に収められているものがどれだけ神聖なものかよくご存知のはず。
大丈夫なのですよ。このひなみ沢に鍵を開けて勝手に入ってしまう悪い猫さんはいませんなのです。にゃーにゃー。
Sobs escaped from my mouth. Something hot and wet dripped down in spades and fell onto the tatami mat.
西宮殿に賊が忍び込んだという話は、渡長市の祭りの最中にもう私族は4人、 その日のうちに手が下されることになりました。同時に西宮殿に賊を許した古出家のリカちゃんと君吉家のおじいちゃんも責任を問わなければならなくなってしまった。
My tears dripped and dropped, until just now I had decided that it was Mion's fault, that she killed Rika-chan and the others. That was wrong. The one who killed them wasn't Mion, it was me. Well, to be more specific, it was Takano, but sure.
俺が殺したも当然なんだ。
圭一君。
I had a chance to stop this tragedy from happening, and yet I didn't. I mean, there's that. Cheap curiosity got the better of me, and I didn't. If at the time I had stopped us from sneaking into the ritual storehouse, Rika-chan and the others wouldn't have had to die. If I had, then nothing would have happened. We would be spending our days having lots of fun, like we always did.
俺がバカだった。
If by shedding tears I could take it all back, then I would have filled up the room with them. However, such a meager act wouldn't be enough to redeem myself for the crime I've committed.
ケイちゃんは何も悪くないよ。
Mion gently began to speak to me, as if trying to reason with me.
私は園崎家の当主として手を園崎家の歴史なんか今にして思えば大したものじゃない。そんなのに全部投げ出しても私は仲間を救うべきだったのかもしれない。私がそんなものに屈したからあの二人を殺してしまった。それは他でもない私園崎美音が殺したということ。
I feel like that right there might be a lie. Not so much a lie, but like I believe she believes that, but I feel like she also was not the one who directly killed them, but she maybe like ordered somebody else to or something.
私には踏みとどまる100億の瞬間があった。でも踏みとどまらなかった。
Or rather, like an admission that she's complicit, but not necessarily the one directly behind it. Although I'm not sure that really matters in this case. We're not, like, it feels like this whole case isn't really much of a whodunit anymore. It's really more of a, it doesn't really matter who did it, because ultimately it is Mion who is ultimately responsible.
安易に自らの役割に屈し、仲間のために戦うことを放棄してしまった。だからこれは私の罪。私が殺した園崎美音がこの手で殺してしまった。それは何ら変わらない。何も。
Her masochistic laughter was sad. Especially because Mion boasted in club that she would turn the tables on whatever predicaments presented themselves. It was so painful.
でもみーちゃんは自分の意志で一人だけ救ったんだね。
え？
As I looked at her surprised, Rena stuck her finger right at my forehead.
圭一君だけをこんなにも強い力を持つみーちゃんなら造作もなかったろうに。でも殺さなかったんだよね。
That's right. Mion was so cunning that nobody could stand up to her, even in our club. If she had seriously tried to kill me, I would have been dealt with on the very first night. So many people had been sacrificed, but I was always left out in the cold. When did I first realize it? Even though people were disappearing one after the other, for some reason I had this vague belief that only I would be left alive.
さて、どうして殺さなかったのかね。鬼の私には見当もつかないわ。ミオンの方に殺したくない都合でもあったんじゃないの？
それはどういう意味だよ。
That would be her split personality talking. Mion put a finger to her lips to say that Rena didn't need to talk.
大石は外で待ってんの？うん。逃げ場は？
ない。ぐるっと囲んでるって言ってた。無線でたくさんの車が来てるみたいだったよ。兄ちゃん家の広い敷地を全部囲んでると思う。
Mion fell silent. Rena's merciless words felt cruel. But they weren't meant to be. Maybe they were trying to lessen her good friend's pain, if only by a little. Maybe they were considerate, like she was trying to help.
自首しよう。
Mion didn't open her mouth, but she smiled just a little.
私たちも一緒に行くよ。親友を一人きりになった。絶対に死ぬ。
泣くことレナには勝てないわ。
She rose, scratching her head. Her face had returned entirely to that of the usual Mion.
自分で自分の罪、どのくらいになるかよくわかってる。たとえ自首が認められても、多分もうここに帰ってくることもないと思う。
I couldn't say anything. The number of deaths Mion was involved in was just too large. So much so that maybe recommending that she turn herself in was, in a way, extremely cruel.
だから最後にわがままを聞いてほしいな。
何かな。
30分でいいからケイちゃんと二人きりにしてほしい。
Huh? My name suddenly came up, and it looked like I was the only one surprised about that.
ケイチ君、どうかな。ケイチ君が嫌なら無理にとは言えない。
そうだね。嫌ならそれでもいいよ。私は鬼だもの。ケイちゃんはよそから引っ越してきた正真正銘の人間。相入れることなんてお社様が実在して仲介してくれない限り絶対にない。
There was no reason for me to hesitate. Mion had been engulfed by heavy, unopposable tradition. Right now, the duty of handling this had fallen to me and me alone. In fact, with me cornered, it would have been okay for her to blame me. However, Mion didn't say one word of blame. Far from it, I was guilty of the same crime, and she let me go. Amidst the fate she could not oppose, she saved me alone. Well, it's not too late. She still has a chance to not save us. I didn't know whether I should be thankful for that. Thinking upon it now, I didn't know how much easier it would be if I were to be granted the same punishment as Rika-chan and the others. The only thing I knew for sure was that I had an equal duty to bear the sins that Mion shouldered. So, when it came to Mion's last request, there was no reason for me to hesitate.
あ、いいぜ。
ありがとう。
私からもありがとうを言うよ。ケイチ君。
Rena stood up. It looked like she would keep her promise with Mion and leave. Just something about this is going a little bit too well. And I know just from Umineko that when things are going this well, that something always happens. And I feel like I'm getting major, like, episode 3 of Umineko vibes here, where I feel like maybe just one little thing is going to turn this all around in a way that it turns out that everything that was just happening was all a lie, or something. I don't know. Like, this is actually Shion, somehow. And she called Rena's bluff, or rather she bluffed about having the tattoo on her.
よレナ。ここで待っててくれれば。ケイちゃんとは庭をぐるりと回りたいだけだから。退屈だったら私の部屋へ行けばいい。漫画とか好きに読んでていいよ。あ、なんだったらお気に入りの単行本丸ごと持ってってもいい。
嫌だよ。みーちゃんの本はみーちゃんのものだもの。勝手にレナの家に持って帰れない。
あんたはこんな時に限っていい子なんだから。
Mion took Rena's head and rubbed it violently like I always did.
じゃあ行こう、ケイちゃん。
I began to walk after Mion, who headed for the hallway, when Rena silently stopped me.
みーちゃんもよろしくね。
あ、
みーちゃんもう二度と帰ってこれないって確信してる。
If this all ends somehow with it turning out that also Rena was in on this and she was lying this entire time, and Mion was lying about all this, like, I'm probably just gonna freak out if that happens, but I don't think that's the case. I think that everything that happened here so far is pretty believable. We'll see. I didn't know much about laws, but with as many deaths as she'd been involved in, the chances of her escaping a heavy punishment seemed non-existent.
みーちゃんが短気を起こさないように見張ってね。
Mion might not surrender herself to justice, so I might have to put an end to it myself. Rena had already thought that far ahead.
そんなこと絶対にさせないから。
Rena rubbed at her tears, which had fallen without me noticing them.
じゃあ言ってあげて。
I nodded and followed Mion, who had disappeared out the front door. I could clearly hear Rena sobbing from the other side of the paper door.
どうしてみーちゃんは鬼なんか継がされちゃったんだろうね。それは仕方のないことだったんだろうね。でもあんまりにもかわいそうだよね。
Something hot burned down my cheeks. They were my tears. I fiercely wiped them away. This was the last of my time I could offer to Mion, so I absolutely didn't want to let her see my tears during it. Mion was already waiting outside the front door. It seems like it might be it. Seems like we might be heading toward an ending here. This seems pretty conclusive so far. I put on my shoes, tapped my toes against the floor a few times, then left, and Mion timidly came over. Why is she turning all red at a time like this?
腕組んでもいいかな。
It was such a modest request.
別に構わないぞ。
With my permission, her face lit up with glee, like a child being given a toy, and took my arm. Just her being back close really freaks me out a little bit, though, because she could, like, transform at any moment.
私に腕を組まれたらなんだか緊張しちゃわない？例えば急に関節技を決められちゃうんじゃないかななんて思ったりとか。
姉妹揃って同じことを言うんだな。思わないよ。全然。
Back when nothing had gone wrong yet. During those nostalgic days of the bustling commotion at Angel Maud. I counted back and was amazed. It had only been 1 week ago. I'd been arm in arm with Shion then, too. Linking arms with Mion like this really reminded me that they were twins. How much strength they put into it, the sensation of their arms, their warmth and the blood flowing. I could feel that their living sensations were all exactly the same.
シオンもケイちゃんのことが好きだったみたい。
そうなんだ。
If this were a regular conversation, I might have jumped back, red in the face. Right now, though, no matter what I heard, my mind remained at peace.
ミオンとシオンは 仲は良かったんだろう。
さあ、どうかな。ケイちゃんは自分の右手と左手は仲がいいと思う？
え？右手と左手？それは仲がいいとか悪いとか、そういう言い方で例えるものじゃないな。
そういう関係だから。仲がいいとか悪いとか、そういう尺度では測れない関係。
That didn't sound like it meant they got along really well.
例えば利き腕というものがあるように、右手と左手には間違いなく優劣の違いがある。
But you don't want your hand just randomly cut off. Like, you don't just want your left hand cut off, so it doesn't mean that you can live without it.
もしも鍋つかみが片方しかなかったら、迷うことなく利き腕にするでしょ。そういう差はあったんじゃないかと思う。だからといって左手がなくなったっていいなんて思う人は誰もいないはず。そんなよくわからない関係だね。
多分それは近くにいすぎるから見えなくなっているだけで、きっととても仲のいいことなんだと思う。俺は一人っ子だから、祭りの前日ミオンとシオンが二人してじゃれ合っているのをすごく羨ましいと思った。
ないものねだりじゃないの？双子なんて昔は人をからかったりしてそこそこに面白かったけど、こうして互いがはっきりと異なる個性を持った今ではかえって邪魔なだけ。
Were they cursed, or were they self-conscious? Their relationship was hard to understand for an outsider. Maybe that wasn't an issue for someone like, or an issue someone like me should intrude on. Just staying silent and nodding gently was the best way to advance the conversation. Mion passed through the wide yard and invited me into the big, desolate forest we'd seen on the way in. Such a big forest was part of their property, so I couldn't help but feel small.
深い森だな。子供の頃はいい遊び場だったんじゃないのか？
Mion seemed to be silently reminiscing. I couldn't look into her mind, but she was probably thinking back to those fun days when they played as sisters without any antagonism. Every time the wind blew, it caressed the treetops and the leaves, making a swishing, murmuring sound. Mion remained silent for a long time, thinking back on her younger sister, whom she'd gotten rid of with her own hands. There was no need for me to get a word in. Just walking like this, arm in arm, was enough. Mion suddenly stopped and turned.
シオンはまだ生きてる。
本当か？
Mion took a hard look into my eyes, then nodded quietly.
誰よりもむごたらしい死に方をさせてやろうとずっと考えて閉じ込めておいたけど、今日までその方法はとうとう思いつかなかった。
That is a horrifying thing to just say, with, like, the straightest face ever. Mion sounded as though she hated Shion, but also, deep down, she didn't completely detest her. So I took my other hand and rustled Mion's hair with it. Mion didn't only save me. She saved Shion, too. Mion may have become a demon and led many people to their deaths, but she fought against it and was able to save 2 people. So even though they're saying all this so directly, a part of me at the back of my head is still thinking, like, if Keiichi dies here, then all of this is just what, like, for example, let's say that both Mion goes to prison or dies, and also Keiichi dies, then all of this would just be from what Rena and Shion would say if they they end up being like the survivors here. I don't know. I'm probably jumping the gun way too much here. I'm just assuming certain people are going to survive and certain people are not. I don't know, but like thinking in the way of Umineko, everything is kind of like what we're seeing is the story as put together by people who are putting it together from clues in the future. I don't know if that's necessarily what they're doing, but part of me, at least, is thinking that way at the back of my head, just in case. As I petted Mion, she narrowed her eyes in an entranced smile and untangled her arm from mine. Then, Mion quietly said,
来て。私の罪のすべてを見てほしいから。
"Ooh, boy, this is not gonna be pretty."
でもそれはケイちゃんにとってこの上なく辛い光景かもしれない。
I could sense it. There I would probably find all the sacrifices up until now. Although, in a way, this is kind of reminiscent of... I feel like this might actually end fine, and Keiichi just sees it and survives. Just like episode 2 of Umineko, where Battler survives. So, I don't know. I feel like it's possible that things could turn out that way. Looking at them would mean accepting Rika-chan and Satogo's deaths. If that is the case, then that just means that we could still look at it in the same way, but it's just that Keiichi would be, or would have been convinced by whoever else remains, and is like perpetuating the same lie as everyone else, I guess. As well as accepting that my best friend had done it.
すでに起こり終わってしまった事実だけれども、ケイちゃんは見ないことを選んでもいい。そうならばここで待っていて、私の手で全て終わらせるから。
I was taken aback by how ominous that sounded. I remembered what Rena had told me. Mion might not surrender herself to justice, but instead choose to put an end to things herself. I couldn't leave her on her own. Besides, I agreed to her last request, didn't I? Even if it was hard for me to accept, I'll still do it. Even if I avoided looking, it was something that had already happened.
何を見たって。俺にとっての園崎美音は最高の親友だ。それは変わらない。一生。
The treetops softly swayed in the wind.
あんたもレナもどうしてこんな時ばかりかっこよくなるんだろうね。
Normally I'd say something rude right back at her, evading the question, but today I didn't. I just answered with a smile. At last, Mion started walking. Into the thick forest, into the deepest part. After following a thin path that looked like an animal trail for a while, we finally came across a steep incline with a tunnel that reminded me of a coal mine or bomb shelter. We were surrounded by shallow hills. It had been created in a spot not visible from the outside. There were many silhouettes of crows in the trees here and there. The abnormal odor I'd been smelling for a while was doubtlessly escaping from inside this place.
引き返すなら今だよ。ケイちゃんの中の園崎美音がどんな人かは知らないけれど、中に入ればその美音はきっと
変わらない。何度だって言う。園崎美音は俺の最高の親友だ。
I clenched my fists. Inside there was probably a sight beyond anything I could imagine. If I let my guard down, I might end up vomiting. Even so, I'll endure it. I'll overcome this pain and this suffering. It will never change that Mion is my greatest friend.
私はただの鬼だから、もう人間の気持ちはわからないけれど、ミオンがあんたを好きになったの、よくわかる気がする。
他人事のように言うな。お前はミオンだ。鬼じゃない。血の通った人間で、俺の仲間なんだ。
Mion made a gesture like she was wiping tears from her eyes, and placed a hand on the big door of the tunnel entrance. The lock on it was dauntingly strong-looking. It seemed to demand the appropriate resolution from whoever would enter, just like the ritual storehouse. When the double doors opened, a stifling, rotten air and a bunch of winged insects came rushing out. I remembered accidentally killing a hermit crab a long time ago by leaving its tank out on the porch, and how intense the odor it left was. If that was the smell of a corpse, then that's certainly what this smelled like. Inside, it was pitch black, but Mion flicked a switch that turned on a light bulb, illuminating the interior. The path turned into a series of intricate wooden tunnels. We passed spaces that looked like they were for storage. We passed places that looked like someone had lived there. All this indicated that it had been used as a bomb shelter and stockpile during the war. It didn't give an impression of a dug-out bomb shelter that had just been left there, though. There was a sense of dignity, as though this were a second Sonozaki house constructed underground. Despite being in pitch black darkness below the ground, the voices of the cicadas were entering through an air hole somewhere, giving it a very mysterious feel.
細具殿の中見たよね。あの拷問道具の山を。あれはすべて鬼ヶ淵村の厳しい戒律を守るために作られたものだった。戒律を破った者を見せしめにむごたらしく殺してみせる。
大昔の話だろ。
本来は見せしめの儀式。渡流しは御三家が取り仕切る儀式だったんだけど、君吉家と古出家の衰退、そして時代の変化によって行うことはとても難しくなった。
そりゃそうだな。この現代日本で犠牲者をのんびりと沢で殺せるなんて思えない。
だから園崎家は作ったの。現代でも綿流しの儀が行えるように、秘密の場所を。
Mion opened a large, strikingly different door, and inside was none other than a modern storehouse for ritual implements.
いろいろあるでしょ。一部のものは実際に西宮殿から運び込まれたものなんだよ。
All of the things there had been rusty and covered in dust, so they didn't seem that real. But the things in here were different. Every one of them had been well maintained and kept in a state that they could be used right away. Blades gleamed and spikes were sharpened. Also, perhaps as a precaution for the splatter of blood, the walls and ceilings were covered in the kind of tiling you would see in bathrooms. And there was even a drain set amidst a slight slope in the floor. There was also a coiled rubber hose along the wall attached to a faucet, perhaps for cleaning up the splattered blood.
大昔の当主の書き物によるとね、血のしぶきってのは犠牲者に負担をかけない割にはインパクトがあるんだってさ。綿流しは見せしめのショーだったから、私のご先祖様たちは様々なショーを考案してたんだよ。
As she said that, Mion pointed deeper into the torture room to a spot veiled in darkness. There was surprisingly a room floored with tatami mats, and in the corner was a pile of cushions.
鑑賞席なんだよ。綿流しは見せしめのショーだから、客がいなきゃ意味がない。
I couldn't speak, and I couldn't think of anything to say anyway. Except that if Mion revealing all this to me made her heart feel any lighter, then I was prepared to listen for as long as I needed to.
みんなここで私が殺した。見てくれている観客はいなかったけど、私は綿流しを上手にやってみせた。いや、観客は一人だけいたかな。
え、観客？
私という鬼がミオンの執り行う綿流しをずっと見てたから。
Mion cackled in self-deprecation. It wasn't a nice-sounding laugh.
向こうが牢屋。
シオンはそこにいるのか？
She nodded slightly. Mion's Watanagashi had ended today. I needed to tell Shion that I was safe without a moment's delay. After all, she was probably trembling in fear at this very moment, worrying about when she would be killed. The ostentatious door on the other side opened, revealing what must have been an incredibly expansive space, based on the echo it made. Mion groped around in the darkness, and a handful of naked light bulbs came on here and there. As my eyes adjusted, more and more of the great cave showed itself in the faint light. The walls were bare rock surface, and it felt so savage that bomb shelter was the most apt term for it. There were small, barred rooms built here and there, like holes made by insects biting their way through a giant piece of fruit. It was immediately clear that each one of them was a prison. I grimaced at her having said it so outright. This feels like they're introducing this area to us so that it can be used later in a different context, or at least so that we should keep it in mind in future chapters.
ああ、そうだ。いつまでも暗い中じゃかわいそうだろ。
虫が湧くと嫌だったから井戸に捨てちゃったよ。ごめん。
So I can't even see their faces in death. Once again, my feelings of regret at having confessed everything to Rika-chan came surging forth. If Mion hadn't attached the word sorry to the end of what she said, I might have punched her. Calm down, Keiji Maibara. You said it yourself. No matter what, Mion Sonozaki is your greatest friend. I needed to hear myself say it out loud. Then came the clattering of bars in one of the cells deeper in. When I noticed it, I looked up as well.
Shion ka?
Kei-chan nano.
I ran over to the cell. White hands were peeking out through the gaps in the bars. It really was her.
Shion, 怪我はしていないのか?
Shion's face twisted out of shape as she screamed. It was because Mion had appeared right behind me. Of course. Shion didn't know that everything was over yet. I spoke in as calm a voice as I could manage to try and soothe the agitated Shion. However, it didn't seem like it was getting through her screams. I feel like we should not let her out right now. I feel like we should wait until Mion is in custody, and then come back in here with the police to let her out.
Shion, ご機嫌はいかがだった?
I wonder if maybe she brought us here so that she could kill us right in front of Shion, just as her final revenge against her. I don't know. Oh, God. Now I'm wondering if maybe she had actually kept everyone alive, and then just killed them in front of Shion. That had been Shion's torture. I almost wonder if this might be the exact same thing that happened with Rika, and maybe even Sadako, where they had like a night's conversation and then they were lured down here and that was it. I almost wonder if maybe even Rena was in on it. I doubt it, but it's possible. Shion, who was screaming and rattling the iron bars back and forth, was truly in a frantic state. I gave a slight shrug of resignation, giving way to Mion. I had realized that if Mion was the one who locked her in here, and if Mion was the one who had scared Shion this much, then Mion was also the only one who could put an end to this. Mion spoke from over my shoulder, quietly.
安心しなよ。あんたは殺さない。 まだまだ殺さないんだから。
Yeah, okay. So this is not over for her. She does not believe she is lost. She burst out into a bizarre laugh as if trying to make Shion's madness even worse. Shion broke out into a fierce shiver, brought on by that laugh, and rattled the iron bars as she wailed.
古式にのっとり、獅子の先端から少しずつガリゴリと削ってミンチにしてやる。あの肉引き器はあんたのために取っておいてやるんだからね。それともそれでケイちゃんをミンチにしてみせた方があんたには面白いかな。
おい、いい加減にしろ。今さら怖がらせてどうするんだよ。
ダメ、ケイちゃん逃げて。
I tried to rebuke Mion for flinging terrible words at her this late in the game, but when I turned around... Yep. So now the question becomes how much of what she told us was true, and how much of it was not. But I feel like she might have actually told us everything, and that might have all been true. I don't know. I could sense it like Mion's mouth, so much that it was hard to believe, had twisted into a shape even thinner than a crescent moon. It was a smile. I could sense it like a jolt of electricity. The person here wasn't my best friend Mion. Well, she did warn you. It wasn't the Mion Sonozaki who had been tossed about by her heavy duty of succeeding the Sonozaki family either. Then, who was she? I saw sparks flying before my eyes, like what happens when you get hit in the back of the head. The strength in my body drained instantly, and my head suddenly became heavy. My knees buckled under the temptation and hit the floor. Then my whole body abruptly collapsed. My face should have hit the floor, but it was comfortable, as if I had fallen onto a down-filled futon. My consciousness reeled and then receded. It was the kind of sensation like if you took a nap in the car, but you were still half awake and could listen to your parents talking as if they were far away. No, you wouldn't be listening, you would only be hearing it. It was happening so far away, and the conversation was completely unrelated to you, so you would have no interest in it. So whether Shion was yelling in my ears or Mion was in vulgar hysterics, I didn't think it annoying, nor did it interest me.
さて、どんな方法で料理してやろうかね。そうだ、釘台なんかどうかな。あのちびがき二人組に試したかったんだけど、手が小さくて高速台にサイズが合わなかったからね。あれにしよう、あれにしよう。
Mion held me up from behind and dragged me across the floor. The soles of my feet scraped on it, and one of my shoes fell off. Shion's emotions exploded outward, and she burst into bitter weeping. As if her crying had whetted Mion's interest, she flung me down and returned to the prison cell again.
あんたも可愛い声で泣けるじゃない。あんたのわざとらしい空威張りには虫唾が走ってたの。やっぱりそういうあんたが一番似合ってるよ。ミオン姉さん、お願いです。私をどういう風に殺しても構いませんから、どうかケイちゃんだけは見逃してあげてください。お願いです。
Shion had always acted as though she were a cut above her older sister. That Shion, in such a miserable voice that I couldn't have imagined it, during those peaceful times, prostrated herself before the older sister she used to scoff at and pleaded forgiveness. Mion looked down with an expression of cool indifference, one that was plainly smiling with joy.
あんたの希望なんか聞くつもりは全然なかったんだけど、あんたがあまりにも面白い声で泣くものだからなんだか聞いててやってもいいような気がしてきたかな。思えばあんたには姉らしいこと何にもしてやれなかったからね。
I almost wonder if maybe, if we're talking about the dual personalities that Mion has, if this is actually the Mion that the non-demon Mion, ironically, and the demon one was the one who was prepared and willing to end all of this, while this one is the one that is clearly not.
ありがとうございます。ありがとうございます。じゃあさ、これまでのことを謝ってみせてよ。そうしたら私もこれまでのことをすっかり水に流してあげてもいいかな。そうしたらケイちゃんだけは見逃してあげなくもないよ。
Mion said she might let me go, but she never said anything about letting Shion go. Before long, Shion got on her hands and knees behind the bars and began to speak weak words of apology. They were too faint for me to hear, but their intention got across. Despite having watched her with a magnificently jubilant expression, Mion kicked the bars and declared she was unsatisfied.
なので私の積年の恨みつらみが償えると思ってるわけ？こんなんじゃダメだね。やっぱりケイちゃんからひき肉だ。いやー！待って姉様！もう一度だけ。
Mion stopped and waved her hand again in resignation. Not because she had grown impatient, but only because she was taking delight in abusing Shion.
ろく満足に謝れないあんただからね。特別にお姉が心に届く謝罪の仕方ってのを教えてあげるよ。一度しか教えないし、一言一句でも間違えたらアウト。いいね。ありがとうございます。
Shion's miserable voice cried out, having become utterly hoarse. The sensation tearing through my chest returned a little at a time. I realized it was feelings of anger bubbling up. It was slowly regaining control of my body. However, I was only able to feel my skin and my blood flowing at the moment. I still couldn't voluntarily move my fingers.
ではやってごらん。誠心誠意、鉄頭鉄尾、心を込めてね。ちゃんとできたなら、あんただけを殺してあげるから。はい。ありがとうございます。ありがとうございます。
Something was strange. Something had become strange at some point. Until just a few moments ago, I was sure this had been Mion, but at some point she had become someone else. The Mion I knew well would never do something so nasty like enjoy trampling all over someone's dignity like this. Honestly, I think that she might. I feel like if anyone wouldn't, it would be the Mion Sonozaki, who is the head of the family and all that. That one probably takes no pleasure in any of this. But the other Mion, the one that we know and, well, know and love and all that, I feel like that would be the one that would actually take some pleasure in this.
さ、やってごらん。お姉ちゃんはちゃんと聞いててあげるから。その崎シオンは。
When I ran over to Shion's cell earlier, had the real thing been swapped out with a fake right behind me? No. Unless they're literally triplets, which that would be just absurd. Anyway, this couldn't possibly be Mion.
その崎シオンはミオン姉様の足元にも及ばない身の程を
姉様に働いて。
ほらほら、その調子。少しは許してあげようかなって気になってきたよ。
Blood circulated through my whole body. My numbed senses were returning. Just a little more. While Shion is still holding Mion's, that thing pretending to be Mion's attention. Hurry up.
生意気だったこれまでを反省し、一緒ですか。
Mion's burst of laughter echoed through the big cave, growing to a terrifying level. It was not the laugh of someone who was alive in this world. It was none other than the laugh of a demon from the bowels of the earth. She laughed from her stomach until she grew tired of it, and stopped smiling suddenly as if snipping a wire.
いいよ、もう。十分面白かったわ。あんたがそこまでプライドを捨てられるとは思わなかったから。うんうん。十分に愉快。
Mion began to drag me again after I finally got the feeling in my body back, and pulled me toward the torture chamber. Well, that is just splendid timing, isn't it? Just great timing for all the nerves in your body to start coming back.
殺すのは私だけ、その人を許してあげ。
安心しなって。ちゃんとあんたは殺してあげるよ。ケイちゃんの悲鳴をたっぷりと聞かせた後にね。
After dragging me to the torture chamber, she skillfully strapped me into the restraining table. Before I knew it, I was sprawled out and bound. She forced open my hands, with which I couldn't even make a satisfying fist, and tightly restrained each one of my fingers. She fastened only my hands, and my fingers at that, tightly with hinges, and locked them in place. The door to the cave, or to the big cave with the jails, had been left open, so I could hear Shion's cries of mortification the entire time.
これから始めるよ。ケイちゃんの若い悲鳴をたっぷりと楽しみな。
いい加減にしろ。
The feeling in my body returned, and the first action I took was to tell off that thing that looked like Mion.
ようやくお目覚め。私、さっき嘘をついたね。
Okay, yeah, but which part?
シオンを一番むごたらしく殺してやろうと思って閉じ込めておいたけど、あれが嘘。
Mion brought over something like a toolbox. From inside it, she removed a large metal hammer, and next to that she began to line up what looked like long, strangely shaped nails whose ends had been turned into hooks like the kind you'd see on a harpoon.
あの子に自分のせいで死ぬ大勢の人の悲鳴をたっぷりと聞かせて、体の芯まで染み通らせてから殺すの。なかなかセンスいいでしょ。
お前は誰だ。
は？ミオンでしょ？園崎ミオン。恐怖で頭が変になっちゃった？
違うな。お前が園崎ミオンであるはずがない。
Mion snorted and continued her preparations for the horrifying torture.
へえ。じゃあ、私がミオンじゃなかったら
鬼だ。
え？
お前はミオンじゃない。さっきまで一緒だったミオンを返せ。
ケイちゃん、本当に頭は大丈夫？恐怖で頭がどうかなっちゃった？
触るな、この鬼め。返せ、ミオンを返せよ。俺の最高の友人だったミオンを返せ。
Mion stood there for a few moments with her jaw hanging open, not having expected me to say that. I myself knew that I was about to go insane. I knew it was nonsense to demand Mion's return when she was right in front of me. But, this person in front of me couldn't possibly have been Mion. There was no way I could accept that. So, this is what I thought. Mion really had been possessed by a demon, and was controlling Mion as if it were a separate personality. Mion was just a victim being manipulated by it. The evil one was really this thing. It all had to be the doing of this demon possessing her. When Mion heard that, she started to guffaw, laughing so hysterically that she started to cough and almost choked.
あんたって本当におめでたい人だね。園崎美音に殺されようとしているこの瞬間に目の前の私を否定するわけ？こんな面白い人が世の中にいるなんて初めて知ったわ。
笑いたければ好きなだけ笑え。だがお前が何を言おうと俺はお前がミオンだなんて認めない。ミオンを返せ。退け鬼め。ケ
イちゃん、私を笑い涙で溺れ殺すつもり
No matter what, I wouldn't lose to that laughter of hers. I shouted loudly. I shouted from the bottom of my heart so that the real Mion, trapped inside the Mion I saw in front of me, would be able to hear.
頑張れミオン。こんな鬼畜生に負けるな。本当に強い。お前の力を見せてくれ。
The tears welled up and flooded down her face. Her hands were busy with the restraints, so she couldn't even wipe them. She just let them flow.
どこでお前はこんな鬼に負けちまったんだ。お前はこんな弱いやつじゃないだろ。負けるな。戦え。戦え。
Mion, desperately enduring her laughter, pressed one of the long nails to the tip of my left pinky. In her left hand was the hammer. At her side were dozens more nails. I could tell what she was about to do, though I wish I couldn't. Even so, I couldn't afford to be scared. That was why I shouted.
お腹の筋肉がよじれて痛いよ。もういい？そろそろ始めるよ。いい声を出してね。これはケイちゃんへの拷問である以上にシオンへの拷問なんだからさ。
You know, like, on some hand, or like, in some way I can almost empathize with what Keiichi is saying here, because unlike in Umineko, where we're dealing with Beatrice, who is, well, quote-unquote, a witch, in this, we are clearly dealing with a human, so assuming that she is actually a human, humans can be reasoned with, so it's worth the attempt at least. I feel like I can respect what he's trying to do. I don't necessarily think it's gonna work, but it's worth a shot.
どうしてこんなことに。
Then I wept. Only sobs came out. They weren't in acceptance of the torture about to be performed, however. They were tears of regret that Mion had lost to the demon. Yet a small change did occur in the Mion in front of me. Her heightened excitement was draining little by little. By the time I'd realized it, the one in front of me had returned to being Mion. Although she might almost get some pleasure out of just making it seem that way for a second and then crushing that illusion immediately.
ケイちゃん、メイドの土産なんて気の利いたものじゃないけれど、どうしても知りたがっているようだから、一つだけ教えてあげるよ。
I didn't know if this was Mion, or just a display of momentary humanity the demon had recovered.
私の中に鬼が宿ったのは、その鬼は私を蝕み、強行に駆り立てようとした。 だけれど私はそれを理性で押さえつけた。鬼はそれで収まり、私はその鬼はどこかへ行ってしまったんだと思い込んでいた。でも本当は違った。私の中から出て行ったんじゃなく、私の中で眠っていただけだったの。
I noticed that there were tears forming in her eyes.
その鬼はある小さなことをきっかけに、それは何に原因があったと思う？
There was a sad and yet reproachful light in Mion's eyes.
わかる？
I don't. I don't know what gave the demon the chance to beat Mion.
鬼の私が教えるのも変だけれど、あんたが全てを狂わせてしまった元凶。
The tears welling up in her eyes spilled downward all of a
あ
sudden.
の時、あんたがもらった人形を躊躇なく私に渡していたなら、全ては狂い出さなかったかもしれない。
The doll I got. I feel like that's almost saying, though, that means that she might not be the one who is responsible in other chapters. She might only be responsible in this chapter because events happen to pan out that way. I don't know. I mean, we know she was clearly somewhat responsible in the last chapter because of what happened at the end of that, but I don't know. The doll I got. That doll that I got when we had our club meeting at the toy store that Sunday.
ケイちゃんには理解できないだろうね。理解できなくて当然。だけどね、そこからドミノ倒しみたいにパタパタパタといろんなものが倒れ始めて、初めの小さな一つを倒したあなたに自覚がないのは当然だろうけど、あなたが元凶なの。
そんな、俺が。
あんたがミオンを泣かさなかったら、私は起きなくてこれで十分。メイドの土産は。
A mistake that I'd made on that day was what messed everything up.
そんな、嘘だろ。
自覚がないのは当然。でも紛れもなく元凶なのはケイちゃん。あの時あんたがさりげなく人形を私にあげていたら、多分こんなことにはならなかったと思う。
I wanted to say, ah, like I just remembered something as I recalled that day. Rena had told me about that, and I thought I had apologized. I didn't apologize to Mion, though. It had been Shion. In other words, oh god, I hadn't said a single word of apology to Mion. Today I came to this house saying I had something to apologize for, but I never said a word of apology about this. Come to think of it, when I apologized for going into the ritual storehouse, Mion looked a little bit lonely, like she was disappointed. Why didn't I realize that until just now? Rena told me at the time, and now she herself, no, the demon, was telling me. It's the only way for a dense idiot like me to be cured. To die altogether. I could no longer hold back the hot tears from pouring out of me. I simply just cried and reflected indifferently on the taste of my tears, on the taste of regret.
じゃあそろそろいい？この拷問はね、とってもシンプル。
左手の小指の先端の節に釘を打つ。順に親指まで打ったらまた小指に戻って、今度は真ん中の節に釘を打つ。この調子で15本の釘で左手を打ちつける。それが終わったら次は右手。それが終わったら次は、まだ意識があったら教えるね。指先ってたくさんの神経が集まってるから、ケイちゃんが想像するよりもはるかに痛いよ。両手30本を打ち終える前に失神しちゃう人もいるそうだから。
Leon pressed the tip of a nail to my left pinky finger. My wrists, my arms, and all the joints on my fingers were strapped in so tightly it hurt, and I couldn't even
他の
twitch.
人を拷問するときには何のためらいもなかったけど、なぜかあんたにはためらいがあるよ。
それでミオンの鬼が収まるなら。
If it will sate the demon, then do to me what you will.
あんた、本気で言ってるの？
俺が傷つけたミオンの痛みに比べれば、こんなの大したことないんだろ。気の済むようにするといい。その代わり、2つ約束しろ。
Mion was silent. She did, however, wait for me to speak.
俺を気が済むまで痛めつけたら、シオンは許してやれ。細工殿に忍び込んだ罪には、それで十分見合う仕打ちをしたはずだ。
あんた、この後に及んで自分よりシオンの心配ができるわけ？
もう一つは、気が済んだらもうお前は消えろ。その体をミオンに返してやってくれ。それだけだ。
あんたって人には命乞いをするとかそういう考えは思い浮かばないの？
約束2つじゃなくて3つ目は、俺を殺すなにしてくれ。
最初に2つって言ったでしょ。だからもうダメ。
そいつは残念。
In such an abnormal situation, Mion and I laughed quietly together, as if sharing in a stupid joke. Yeah, it's not going to be a joke for long.
多分、私は約束を守らないよ。鬼だから。
その時は仕方がないさ。
I recalled tightening my hands into fists when enduring the pain at the dentist's office. Right now, though, they were opened all the way to my fingertips, so I couldn't even grip them. So instead, I tightened my toes. Okay, do it. I prepared myself already. I really don't think we need to see this, but alright. So do it. You waiting like this to hammer the nails in is scarier. It's going to diminish my readiness after all. Mion put down the hammer and gently stroked my cheek.
ケイちゃん、今の3つ目の願いだけは聞いてもいい？
That doesn't really work. My third wish. To save me. She'll agree to it.
1つ目の願い、シオンを救うこと。これはもう無理。シオンは鬼が殺してしまう。それはもう決められたことだから止められない。だから諦めて。
Her delicate fingers slid from my cheek to my chin.
そして2つ目の願い、この体をミオンに返すこと。これももう無理。今日を境にミオンが戻ってくることはもうない。今日以降、もし私の姿があったとしても、それは姿だけ。私の姿をした鬼だから。
そんなことはない。ミオンはミオンだ。もう戻ってこないなんて悲しいことを言うな。
聞こえる？あの音。
Mion gently closed her eyes and listened. I definitely heard it as well. It was a dull noise that repeated at fixed intervals. A low noise accompanied by vibrations. A lot of people were ramming the iron doors to this underground ritual storehouse.
帰りが遅いからレナが大石を呼んだんでしょ。あのぼやーっとした感じの子がこんなに頭が回るのだけは計算外だったな。
それについては同感だよ。
Mion grinned like she'd been outwitted, then took something that looked like an electric razor out of her pocket. When she pressed the switch, pale blue sparks flew out with a snapping
見た
noise.
ことないでしょ。本物のスタンガンだよ。
違法品なんでかなり出力が上げられるようになってるけどね。
さっき俺に食らわせたのはそれか。子供のおもちゃには向かねえぞ。
Well, at least that's information. We now know that Mion has a stun gun. Whether that's for the future, to keep in mind, or the past, I don't know.
そうだね。
She seemed to want to use the stun gun on me. Unable to move, I felt her press the cool lump of metal to my neck. I heard a roar as though they'd broken down the first large door. The halls were a bit complex, but aside from the door to this very torture chamber, there was nothing in their way.
殺さないけど、しばらくケイちゃんにはお休みしててもらうね。すぐに大石が来てくれるから、ちょっとの我慢。
Feeling the same shock as before. Gritting my teeth wasn't going to help much, but I clenched them tightly anyway. However, just as she did when she was about to hammer the nails in, she hesitated a little. I cracked open my gently closed eyelids.
ごめんね。ミオンを怪我して。
ここに入る前に約束した。何があっても俺の中のミオンは変わらない。
でも忘れて。今日以降、もしも私を見かけても、それは私の屍に取り付いた鬼なんだから。
What are you talking about? Just as I tried to say that, a much stronger light than before shined, and like a television being switched off, my consciousness went black. June 1983. A string of disappearances occurred in Hinamizawa Village, Shishibone City, XX Prefecture. The suspect is Mion Sonozaki, ex-teen years old. She's suspected to have kidnapped 5 Hinamizawa residents between June 19th and June 21st. Oryo Sonozaki, oh interesting, so her grandmother too. Shion Sonozaki, Kiichiro Kimiyoshi, Rika Furude, and Satoko Hojo, imprisoned them and killed them. Okay, so all 5 of them died. Interesting. Preliminary investigations on the incident were delayed at the time due to insufficient evidence, but it was resolved coincidentally and shockingly. On the morning of the 23rd, a vehicle patrolling the Sonozaki property heard screams from inside and rushed in as an emergency measure. They secured the suspect's missing younger sister, Shion Sonozaki, and her 2 missing classmates, Keiichi Maibara and Reina Ryugu. Okay, so they did make it out. Hopefully. Hopefully it wasn't Mion that managed to switch with Shion or something. The suspect fled the scene. Deep in the detached basement on the Sonozaki property, which is believed to have been used to kill those who disappeared, we discovered hair, flakes of skin, blood, etc. of the other 4 missing persons: Oryo Sonozaki, Kiichiro Kimiyoshi, Rika Furude, and Satoko Hojo. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a number to keep in mind. We concluded that the missing persons were tortured in the torture chamber. However, their remains have still not been found. At one of her imprisoned classmates' advice, we continued searching the detached basement of the Sonozaki property, which was where they were imprisoned, believing that they were there. However, we still have not located them or the suspect's escape route. In addition, investigations are continuing as to her participation in serial freak death incidents of recent years, thinking it would give some clue. But no evidence that Mion Sonozaki was involved, either directly or indirectly, has been found. There are still many unclear points as to the motive behind the incident, and as those of the Sonozaki family and the residents of Inamizawa have been extremely uncooperative in assisting us, we expect to require a long time to clarify them. The opinion of a local officer knowledgeable about the region is that this may have been a lynching, an internal form of punishing sacrilegious acts carried out against the beliefs of Inamizawa village. It is clear that these incidents are particularly rooted in this region, and the prefectural police department has ordered a cautious investigation. We anticipated gaining valuable clues from the missing person, believed to have been imprisoned for the longest time, Shion Sonozaki, the suspect's younger sister. But her mind was stricken by the grave after-effects of the incident, and she has not been in a state of mind to properly answer any questions about what she knows. The psychiatrist concluded that she's in a temporary state of shock, but it doesn't seem hopeful that she will recover today either. I mean, that's understandable, given what happened. But all things considered, this kind of ended pretty much as well as you could have hoped for it. Only a few days passed since that time. After that, I was rescued by Oishi-san and his subordinates, whom Rena had called in. Aside from my entirely blank state of mind, I had no external injuries. The most I had was the small burn mark from where the stun gun hit me. As I was having a checkup in the hospital, Oishi-san asked me all sorts of things, but I don't really remember what he asked or how I answered him. From what I heard, surprisingly, Mion still hadn't been captured. There were apparently a great many hallways and smaller rooms extending out from the depths of the prison. It wouldn't be strange if she had fled to one of those and hidden herself. The one fortunate aspect, amidst all the misfortune, was that Shion had been safely secured by the police. When I last saw Mion, she seemed like she was going to take me with her, and then kill me. She probably didn't have enough time to, though, since Oishi-san came running in faster than she predicted. That was the only really fortunate thing to have happened. Of course, the rescued Shion, despite having no external wounds, now had a big, deep wound in her heart. She was in a severe state of confusion when they rescued her, and apparently she bit the police officers trying to resist. From what he heard, she was seeing Mion in everyone she saw, hated not only the hospital, but even her own home, and had shut herself up somewhere in Chichibone, hiding her location. Additionally, in fear that Mion would come for her, she was moving from place to place every day, and even her parents weren't sure where she actually was. Wherever she was living, even now, Shion was spending her days in fear of Mion's shadow. The police were investigating the Sonozaki's underground storehouse at this moment, since they couldn't find the remains of the other sacrifices. Hadn't Mion thrown the corpses into a well? I had a feeling I'd said that to him. That meant a hidden tunnel, vertical like a well, was somewhere in those underground passages. Secret underground without any maps or architectural drawings, which had swallowed up the remains of Rika-chan, Satoko, and everyone else, was still unwilling to speak the truth. I was brought back to that basement again, too, for an on-the-site inspection or something, but I didn't remember being of any help. I never wanted to go back there again. For days afterwards, the Sonozakis living in Okinomiya, in other words, Mion and Shion's parents, the big-name Yakuza, would come to our house to apologize, bringing many of their followers with them. However much my parents refused it, They piled up many 100,000 yen bills, calling it consolation money, every day. The amount of money grew each day, and after it had passed 2 million yen, they were then given an envelope containing a letter. I don't know what was written in the letter. My parents talked about it by themselves for 2 whole nights, and decided to move away.
そっか、引っ越しちゃうんだね。いつ？
来月の終わり。ひなみ沢には結局半年も居つかなかったことになるな。
寂しくなるね。私一人しか残らない。
Rena smiled sadly. If I just said yeah, I thought it would make her even more lonely, so I changed the subject.
こう考えることがあるんだ。
And that's how I broached it. Mion hadn't actually fled, but had been demoned away in the truest sense of the term. Where she went after she disappeared, that we didn't know. What was there, where she had disappeared to? I hoped there was a hobby shop dealing in imports, the kind Mion liked. In that place, she would definitely be free from the burdensome fetters of her family, and live not as Mion Sonozaki, but as just Mion, and enjoy herself. Maybe she's already met up with Satoko and Rika-chan. They must also have been waiting for the day Rena and I would join them, spending all their time doing club activities, as lively as they always were. When I told Rena that, she smiled and nodded to me. The incidents that the Sonozaki family had been trying so hard to hide, too, were exposed to the magazines from this single tiny seam. The serial incidents of recent years were all pulled up like a long vine in the ground, one by one, and for many days news of it was brought up on talk and variety shows. The shows, which were comedic and silly, never once tried to touch upon the grim, heavy history that Mion had been bearing. It made me mad to see them bringing this stuff up in jest, but there was nothing I could do about it now. How big an impression would these short few weeks I spent in Inamizawa have on my life? During these few weeks, I met my best friends and had the best experiences of my life, and also probably the worst. I would probably never forget it as long as I lived. As for the distorted image of Mion that the media created, after the masses got tired of treating her like a plaything, they would ball her up, throw her in the trash, and then she would fade from their memories. As somebody, as one of the people who knew the real Mion, I must always make sure I remember her. Beyond any doubt, that will surely become my offering to her. The sky reached so far up, and towering cumulonimbus clouds floated through it. The real summer was just before our eyes. Even now, whenever 10 p.m. came around, I would expect a phone call from Shion, or Mion rather. Now that everything was over, of course, she would never call me. But it was precisely because she wouldn't call me that I was scared of who would call me this time. Plus, Mion still hadn't been caught. I couldn't say for sure that everything was completely over. On the other side of that fear, though, were my prayers that Mion was safe. When I thought like that, I was able to sleep, even with such terrifying thoughts. The lights were off. Before, her attacking when the lights were off was something that scared me. However, that feeling changed to regret within 2 days. The moonlight filtering through the gap in the curtains shone onto the desk, and illuminated a doll. That's right. The doll that I should have given to Mion that day. She said it was an import from England or something, and was all the rage, didn't she? From what Shion said, the most popular among them were the ones wearing the fluffy dress. After being released from the incident, the first place I went to was that toy store. Everything was apparently sold out, besides the things on the storefront displays. I was refused once when they said they wouldn't sell the display products, but when they realized I was Survivor A from that incident, they immediately consented. Of course, even if I bought it, I might never have the chance to give it to her again. Even knowing that, I waited for the opportunity to give it to her. I waited like this for the opportunity, with it on the desk, so I could give it to her at any time. Plonk. There was a weird noise. It was a noise I just wasn't used to hearing. It was too big to be raindrops, and it was completely different from the sound lost bugs make when they ram into fluorescent lights. I figured I must have misheard and nestled back into my futon. Plonk. The noise happened again. I wasn't hearing things. I definitely heard it. Where was it coming from? I got up and turned on the light. If there was a second, there would be a third. From where, though? I listened carefully. Plonk. The window. Some sort of pebbles were colliding with my window. Could that be Reina? Like, she did that in the first chapter. But then again, it could also be Mion. When I realized they weren't being blown there by the wind, but rather being thrown by a person, I gave a start. I looked at the clock. It was 2 a.m. Who would it be at a time like this? I quietly peek out front through the gap in the curtains. It could also be Shion, but I doubt it. In the light at the gate, despite its being so late, I saw someone. They picked up a piece of gravel and threw it at this window. It hit the window and made a plonking noise. Who was it? I caught my breath in surprise. If my eyes weren't deceiving me, that person was Mion. She did tell you not to go near her if you ever saw her again, but I don't know. I threw open the window and looked at the figure again. My eyes certainly weren't deceiving me. It was Mion. It was Mion. She was alive. Mion pressed her index finger to her lips and made a shh motion so I wouldn't shout. If she hadn't, well, I was nearly about to cry out. Mion was in a very delicate position right now. Even if it was the middle of the night, I shouldn't call out her name. I waved to her, gesturing that I'd be right over. Flung on my coat atop my pajamas and flew out the door. I quickly hit the brakes just before going down the stairs. Although happiness was sprouting within me, I had the sad feeling that this would be our final parting. So I went back to my room again and grabbed the doll. If there was a god, I don't think I would have ever thanked him as much as today, even if it would be the last time we ever saw each other. I was so grateful for this one chance to give it to her. I slipped into my sandals, unlocked the door, unhooked the chain, and leapt out of the house.
Mio!
お久しぶり。どう？元気にしてた？
It was like how we used to meet every morning. Mion waved to me and responded like she always did. It was doubtlessly Mion. It was the real Mion.
お前、こんなところをうろついてて大丈夫なのか？
本当はいけないよ。
She certainly wasn't acting like she knew the police were following her. It was almost like she was a patient who had gotten tired of staying in the hospital and had snuck out. Her speech was relaxed enough to make me think that, and I couldn't help but be surprised. That relaxation, I thought, was more like Mion, and I was happy for it.
それよりどうしたんだよこんな時間に。
最後にお話ししたかったから。
That was when I noticed them. On Mion's forehead were big droplets of sweat. Her expression, too, which I had thought to be a satisfied smile, was, upon closer inspection, trembling slightly, and I realized that she was forcing it.
私ねもうここにはいられない。
A pained note was beginning to enter her words as well, as if just smiling was a feat for her.
大丈夫か？どこか具合でも。
今日まで頑張ってきたけどもうダメ、もう限界。私のお迎えはもうすぐ後ろまで来てる。
Mion's smile crumbled and started to stiffen. Did she push herself this much to come all this way for me? Her laughter cut off and changed into rough breathing. I reached out to rub her back, but she knocked me away.
もう無理するな。な、そうだ。俺ミオンに。
To give you, Mion, this doll. I'd wanted to do this one last thing, because I knew how little time you had left. But this last thing, it... My stomach is burning. And that would probably be the knife. Mion took a meat cleaver-like knife and stabbed me, and pushed it in tight, and took it and twisted it. Mion? Hey, what? It hurts. Well, she did warn you. I cowered on the ground. My stomach was so hot it was almost spewing fire. Mion watched it, then took a few steps back and cackled. That means she got to Shion as well. The last words Mion left me with that day came back to me.
今日を境にミオンが戻ってくることはもうない。
From today on, even if my body is here, a body is all it will be. By then, the demon will have taken it over. The demon. The demon. The demon. This can't. I thought we had finally been able to meet. This can't. Mion, in a pool of my own design, or a pool of blood of my own design, is the doll I bought for Mion, dyed in red. So red. Mion. The good fortune of having been allowed to meet Mion once more, and the misfortune of that meeting being torn apart before my eyes. Should I be grateful or curse it? My emotions were neither of those, and my consciousness sunk deep into a black swamp. The doll I brought for Mion, the blood had ruined it. No matter how I scrubbed and scrubbed, it had needlessly been ruined. The sad moon was so white, it looked frozen. June 28th, 1983. A violent incident occurred in Hinamizawa Village, Shichibone City, XX Prefecture. The victim was Keiichi Maibara, also a victim of the previous string of disappearances. At around 2 a.m., he was stabbed in the stomach with a bladed object by the suspect of the last case, Mion Sonozaki, and was gravely wounded. He was discovered when his parents woke up, and was then transported to the clinic. He escaped death. Oh, he actually survived. The criminal fled the scene. On the same day, at approximately the same time, a fatal accident occurred in the Kamishiki apartment complex in Shishibone City, XX Prefecture. The victim was Shion Sonozaki, also a victim of the previous string of disappearances. Late on the same night, neighbors overheard her having a big fight with someone and informed the manager. The manager used a master key to enter the room and discovered that the victim had fallen from her 8th floor balcony to her death. Well, there it is. The room had been torn apart and appeared to show traces of a fight. One neighbor had frequently visited the Sonozaki house for a long time and testified that he heard what sounded just like the two sisters having a fight, trading insults back and forth. We believed this was related to the injury case that occurred the same day in Hinamizawa Village, perpetrated by said incident suspect, and did a thorough search of the room, but we could not find any traces that would imply anyone but the victim was present. The victim fell straight down into the foliage of a parking strip. Her neck broke and she died immediately. Her clothing was disheveled and had markings that would imply a scuffle. We also believe, however, there could have been an insanity-induced suicide attempt based on the particular mental state of the victim after the incident. No, based on what Shion said to Keiichi, that's probably not the case. We're conducting a thorough examination on both fronts, suicide and homicide. And there it is, I guess. They took a bittersweet ending and turned it into just a bitter ending, I guess. What? Oh, I was expecting credits. Oh, Jesus Christ, Oishi. Him again. Clack. The door opened, and as I expected, Oishi-san came in.
どうも前原さん。ご無沙汰しておりますね。その後、お加減はいかがですか？
医者が言うには術後の回復は順調だそうですが、あんたの顔を見たらまた傷が悪くなりそうです。
こりゃ手厳しい。
As Oishi-san gave a laugh that smelled of sweat, he handed Mom a bag of assorted candies he must have purchased from the souvenir corner on the first floor of the hospital.
すみません、お母さん。ほんのしばらく圭一君とお話しする時間をいただいてもよろしいですか？
Mom clearly wasn't pleased at the thought of a police officer talking to her son without her there. However, I insisted.
悪いけど、ほんのちょっとだけ5分でいいから。
Though grudgingly, Mom left the room. When she closed the door, Oishi-san grinned widely and looked around the room.
個室なんていい身分ですね。うちのばあさまなんかいっつも相部屋ですよ。そりゃもう賑やかなことで、ああいうところじゃ病気の重さが一つのステータスになるらしいんですよ。より重病な患者ほど偉いというか、威張っているというか。
大石さん、5分ですよ。できればこれが本当に最後の5分にしてほしいものです。 俺はもうひなみ沢とは関係ないし、ここももうひなみ沢じゃない。
沖宮には総合病院はありませんからね。椅子よろしいですかな。ゆっくらしゅっと。
This was a large university hospital in Shishibone City. It was splendidly urban, entirely different from the likes of Inamizawa and Okinomiya. It was hard to believe Inamizawa was part of the same city.
転院はいつ頃になりそうですか？
さあ、俺的にはいつでも OK なんですけどね。
Our moving plans were delayed a little because of my serious injury. My parents had already left the house in Inamizawa, though, and were living in our new one. They planned to have me transfer hospitals to be closer to the new house once I'd recovered enough to be taken there.
先にまで来ないでくださいよ。本当に具合が悪くなりますからね。
いやー、すっかり嫌われちゃいました。仕事柄とはいえ心苦しいですよ。なので今日はこれまでの罪滅ぼしに素敵なお土産をいろいろお持ちしましたので。
別にクッキーの詰め合わせなんか持ってこなくても。
それがね、実は中身はクッキーじゃないんですよ。ほら。
Oishi-san pulls open a can of cookies and... Ow! I'm stretching my scar.
前原さんの好みがわからなかったので、いろいろと持ってきましたよ。ほら、よりどりみどり、野原は黄緑ってな。さあさあ、好きなだけ持って行っちゃってください。
こんな本なんか持ってこないでください。持って帰って持って帰って。いってててててて。
健全な若者がこんなところにずっと閉じ込められてたらさぞやご入り用だと思ったんですけどね。こんなところにいると看護師フェチにしかなりませんよ。世の中には看護師さん以外にも素晴らしいものがいっぱいあるんですからね。
He's really eating up these 5 minutes with talk of absolutely nothing.
今から専門を決めないで幅広くオールラウンドに行かなくっちゃ。
I gave Oishi-san's vulgar laughter a pained grin. Somehow or other, I understood. The fact that Oishi-san was bringing it up like this meant that he must have had something important to talk about.
シオンさんの件は
The night I was stabbed by Mion, Shion fell from her balcony and died. They said the police were investigating all possibilities, accident, suicide, and homicide. But it could only have been Mion's doing. Mion found out where Shion was hiding and pushed her down to her death. Nothing else was conceivable.
ミオンです。絶対に。
鑑識の連中は自殺だとしか思えないなんて言ってるんですが、シオンさんを突き落とし、さらにあなたを刺した。一晩のうちにね。
ミオンはまだ見つからないんですか？
そうそう。それを今日はお伝えしたくて来たんですよ。はい。実は、
Learning that felt rather strange to me. I was partly relieved that the incident was truly over, and I was partly sorry that my best friend had finally been caught. I felt many other things too. My heart was a maze of emotions.
それだけじゃない。園崎家の例の地下、隠し井戸も見つかったんですよ。前原さんがおっしゃられてた通り、失踪者全員の遺体をその底で発見しました。
Okay, before he says it, I wonder if they're gonna find Shion at the bottom of that well, and the person who stabbed us was Mion, who was actually posing as Shion the entire time, and she commits suicide. I don't know. That might be a bit of a stretch, though.
そうですか。
that sliver of hope, that possibility I'd believed in, that Rika-chan and Satoko were alive, just from the fact that their remains hadn't been found. Gone.
あの地下に実に巧妙に隠されてましてね。いやいや、まさに死角中の死角でした。井戸状に掘られた垂直トンネルでして、はしごが設けてあって、下へずーっと行ったところに、今度は横へ抜けるトンネルが作られていました。そこを数百メートルも張って進むと、なんと山中の古井戸に抜けられましたね。
過去の園崎家の当主が作らせた秘密の逃げ道だったんでしょうね。
でしょうな。明治以降に作ったものでしょうが、いやいや、よくもあんなものを作ったもんです。
みんなの遺体はその底に。
はい。逃げ道の通路よりもさらに下にコールタール状の泥水が溜まってまして、そこに無造作に投げ込まれていました。相当の高さから落としたわけですから、遺体はどっぷりと埋まってしまってましてね。遺体の引き上げにはだいぶ苦労させられました。
全員見つかりましたか？
I hoped that they at least wouldn't find Rika-chan or Satoko. That's what I wished for when I asked, but my shallow hope was crushed in the blink of an eye.
全員。それどころか死後10年以上経過したと思われる人骨も見つかりました。最低でも3人分はあると思われます。ひなみ沢の歴史の暗部というわけでしょうな。泥を全部吸い出したら一体何人分の骨が出てくるやら。怖い話です。
That weight had been pushing down on Mion's shoulders the whole time. Mion.
今、獅子骨市内の過去数十年の失踪者を洗い直しているところです。諦められてた失踪事件もこれを機に全部解決するんじゃないか。
After a deep silence, he breathed a heavy sigh. Oishi-san went for cigarettes to pass the time, but realized this was a non-smoking area, so he gave up and put them back in his shirt pocket. The problem is over a decade old. That means that they didn't find the ones from the previous incidents, which means that those people were not disposed of there. So, they didn't find Satoshi, they didn't find the culprit of the dam murder. They didn't find, who was it? The wife of, the Hojo wife, and they didn't find the Furude priestess wife.
そうそう。これは寄り道なんですが、古出里香さん、ご存知ですよね。
もちろん、仲間ですから。
彼女、例えば糖尿病でインスリンの注射を常用していたとか、そんな話はありました？
That's news to me. Rika-chan has diabetes? I didn't know what he was talking about.
実は彼女のスカートのポッケからですね、注射器が見つかりまして、破損していたので薬物は特定できなかったのですが。
I guess that's kind of like trying to throw suspicion on Rika for the murder of Tomitake, but I don't know.
少々不似合いだったので興味を持ちまして。本当にご存知ありません
？I didn't know anything about Rika-chan carrying syringes around with her.
園崎家は本業の方、薬剤屋さんのことです。で、覚醒剤を扱ってるとの噂がありましてね。その可能性もあるかなんて思ってたのですが。
リカちゃんが覚醒剤の常用者だっていうのか？
いえいえ、そうは申してませんよ。ただ、お醤油をもらいに行くついでに注射器を持っていくってのはどう考えても変ですからね。
Maybe as like self-defense, although it clearly didn't work. I have no idea what any of this means. My eyes are spinning. I feel sick.
大丈夫ですか？看護師さんを呼びましょうか。
Although I guess they didn't identify anything about what was in the syringe. Because... Wait, hold on. Let's see. In her skirt pocket. It was destroyed, so we couldn't identify the medicine. Ah. Okay.
大丈夫ですから。話の続きを。
まあ注射器の話はそれだけです。それだけが個人的に気になったもので。
Rika-chan.
村のマスコットみたいなところがありましたからね。今村は騒然としてるみたいですよ。盲信してた年寄り方と殺してしまった園崎家とで、実効支配していた御三家もほぼ全滅状態。こんなタイミングでまたダムの話が出てきたりしたら、今度こそ間違いなく敗損でしょうな。
もう俺、ひなみ沢とは関係ありませんから。
I actually was. I just said it because the thought about Hinamizawa being abandoned was unpleasant and I wanted to end the conversation quickly. There was a knock at the door. It opened slightly and my mom asked if we were still talking.
ありゃ、無駄話が過ぎましたか。参ったな。
I looked at the clock. 5 minutes were long past. He told my mother that there was something he really wanted to ask, and if she could just wait a little if she could wait a little bit longer.
そう？手短にね。
There wasn't any getting around the fact that she was thinking about what a police officer could be talking to her son about.
日を改めた方が良さそうですね。
大石さん、ミオンは今どうしてるんです？
I wanted to just hear that answer and then get rid of him.
それを話す前に、前は本当に正直に答えてもらいたいことがあります。
何ですか？
本当に真面目に答えてくださいよ。これ、いい加減なこと言っちゃうと、場合によっては捜査か乱と見られて告発される場合もありますからね。
Oishi-san kept threatening me until the end. What the hell did he want?
前原さん、シオンさんを突き落とした犯人は誰だと思います？
ミオンしか考えられないじゃないですか。
では、あなたを刺したの誰です？
何度も言わせないでください。ミオンですよ。園崎ミオン。
Oishi-san smiled bitterly, then dabbed at his forehead with a handkerchief to wipe his sweat. He should have expected that answer, and yet it looked as though he wasn't satisfied with it.
シオンを突き落として、俺を刺して、ミオンの犯行だって、さっき大石さんも認めたじゃないですか。
シオン殺しの犯人がミオンだという根拠は、隣人の男の証言によるものなんです。この隣人ってのは、実は暴力団組員、つまりシオンさんのボディーガードだったんですよ。このうちのリーダー格が古参で、園崎姉妹が幼いうちから親身になってた男なんだそうで。
That man said this. The noise he heard from next door was just like the sound of a fight between these sisters that he was used to hearing when they still lived together. And no, there was no doubt about it. He said he heard Mion and Shion insulting each other, and heard them struggling. At first, though, he thought it was a hallucination she was having, brought on by her dementia. You see, he thought that because that sort of ruckus had been occurring every night. However, that night had been longer than the rest, and he claimed that he went to her room to give her a sedative. The noise died down while he got the manager to give him the key. He'd already decided he'd at least check up on her, and after she wasn't answering his calls, they took the plunge and unlocked the door. When they saw that the room was a mess, since Shion had been pushed over the balcony, they decided it had to have been Mion. And that's how it happened. I mean, it could also be that Shion is the one with split personality. I don't know, they're really casting doubt on everything, basically, with all of this, and I have a feeling that what Oishi's gonna say next is gonna turn everything on its head.
つまり壁越しに聞いたというだけなんです。しかもこのマンション、組の関係で住人がほとんどいないんです。ですからこの騒ぎを聞いてたのも彼らだけ。重ねて言えば園崎美音を目撃した者は誰一人いないんです。
見なくったって、そんなのミオンの犯行だってわかるじゃないですか。
まあまあ、だからつまりですね、あなただけがあの晩確かに園崎美音を目撃した唯一の人間ってことになるんです。もう一人の目撃者のシオンさんは生きておられませんからね。
大石さんが何を言いたいのかよくわからないんですけど。
At that point, Oishi-san paused. The fact that this was a no-smoking area completely slipped his mind, and he took out his pack of cigarettes again. Kerchak, he lit one with his lighter, and exhaled a long stream of tobacco smoke.
あなた、本当に園崎美音に刺されたんですか？
Well, he didn't see her back.
はい、間違いなく。
The smoke Oishi-san breathed out floated away, like a thundercloud swept away by the
大
wind.
石さん、ここ禁煙です。看護師さんに怒られますよ。
実は園崎美音も井戸の底から見つかったんですよ。
え？
転落死です。あの井戸の隠し通路から逃げ出そうとしてはしごを降りる途中に足を踏み外し、そこまで転落し、首の骨を折って死亡したとみられます。はい、シオンさんと同じにね、首の骨を折って。あの日、前原さんを気絶させた後、園崎美音は隠し井戸から外へ逃れようとして足を踏み外して死んだのです。まるでそこに突き落とした他の犠牲者の死体に呼び寄せられるようにね。
それじゃあおかしいじゃないですか。
検視の結果、間違いなくあの日に死亡したものと確認されました。
Well, I had a feeling this was coming, and I'm glad I wasn't really, overthinking things with all the, keeping the idea of Mion and Shion swapping at the back of my mind, so. Thank God that I was not just being, super paranoid there, and it was actually something to be thinking about.
あなたとシオンさんを襲ってからあそこに戻ったんじゃない。あの日にすでに死んでいたんです。
My jaw was on the floor. There was absolutely no way that could be. Mion was the one that stabbed me. It had to have been her. There wouldn't have been anyone else to do it.
じゃあ、誰が俺とシオンを襲ったんですか？誰が？
あなたを襲った園崎美音なのに園崎美音じゃない何者かですよ。
My mind had become a complete mess, and I was starting to lose my ability to think straight.
高野美音さんの死覚えてますか？
え？高野さん？あ、はい。確か遠くの山の中で焼け死んだって聞いたような。
あれは考察された後に焼かれたことが分かってます。検視したのは県警さんなんですけどね、これがちょっとおかしいんですよ。初期の検視結果では死後24時間経過って出ちゃったんです。辻褄が合わないってことで大慌てで当日死亡って改ざんしたらしいんですが。
Despite me being an absolute wreck over what was going on with Mion, he was telling me there was even more on top of that? I didn't understand the complex things Oishi-san was telling me.
死後24時間って検視結果、かなり信頼できるものらしいんです。つまり、どういうことか。これは何度も聞いた質問になりますが、あなた、綿流しの晩、高野美代さんに会ってますよね。
合ってます。
その前日、お祭りの準備の日にも会ってますよね。私もその時お会いしてますし。
ええ、合ってますよ。
死後24時間ってことは、お祭りの前日の晩には、もう死んでるってことになるんですよ。
Okay, well, unless she has a twin too, at which point things are just getting ridiculous, so I don't think that's the case. Clearly that's just wrong, so.
そんなはず。
お祭りの準備の時には生きていた。でも、あなたたちと一緒に西宮殿に忍び込んだ時、高野さんはもうお亡くなりになっていたのです。
The origin of all that happened, the beginning of everything, our intrusion in the ritual storehouse, which had come to regret countless times, the one who tempted me, Takano-san. When she invited us into the storehouse, she was already no longer of this world. I mean, I don't buy that for a minute, obviously.
今回の事件、死人が歩き回りすぎなんですよ。
An incident caused by a dead person and ended by a dead person.
園崎美音の死亡時間を事件当日ではなく、あなたを刺した直後に改ざんせよとの圧力も来てるみたいです。この事件をとっとと終わらせようとする外圧でしょうね。ですので、今の話はどうか他言無用に願いますよ。
Oishi-san grabbed his jacket that was hanging on the chair, put out a cigarette with the bottom of his foot, and started pretending to wave away the smoke floating around. So basically they're just modifying the time of death estimates just because it doesn't make sense. So they don't have any doubt about it, that it's not reliable or anything. They're just changing it because it wouldn't make sense if it was anything other than that, which is not exactly the right way of doing things, but I can kind of understand why they're doing that.
長居しました。あなたにとっての事件をせめて終わらせてあげようと思って来たつもりだったんですがね。かえって煙に巻いちゃったようで。
Absent-mindedly, he walked toward the door, looking at me, unable to speak, out of the corner of his eye.
今後お話したいことができたらいつでもお電話ください。さっきのお土産の中に私の名刺が入ってますんで、その時はまた素敵なお土産を持ってお見舞いに来ますよ。
Although again, we're talking about, like I mentioned it in the previous chapter's theory video, where I talked about how we might cast some doubt over the doctor and the one performing the autopsies. So I don't know, there might be some suspicious stuff going on there. Oishi-san seemed to think I was still hiding something. That I, after all this, would be hiding something. I'm the one things are being hidden from. I'm the one who wants to know.
またいつかお会いしましょう。お大事に。
Slam. I listened to the tap, tap, tap of Oishi-san walking down the hallway. I still couldn't return from my state of bewilderment. He wanted to end this incident as it applied to me. What was over? Nothing was over. The incident was still continuing. Then, slip, an arm covered in fresh blood came out from underneath the bed. Okay, at this point I think this is literally just a ghost story that's being told, and it's not actually real. I wasn't that surprised. This was an illusion I was seeing, seized with fear.
ちゃん、だから言ったでしょ。
I heard a guttural voice coming from under the bed. I still recognized it as Mion's voice.
ミオン、何を言ったって？
私、あの日に警告したよ。今日以降、私の姿を見たとしても、それは私の屍に取り付いた鬼。
そうだな。言ってたよな。ごめん。ちょっと注意が足らなかったな。だから刺されちゃったんだな。
I think, if anything, if we want to like come up with a real explanation for this is just a delusion on Keiichi's part because he's in the hospital. I mean, come on, right? Possibly wounds sustained when she fell from the ladder. Many of her fingernails were broken and torn. Her arm slowly felt about on top of the bed, searching for mine.
あのさ、ミオン、俺今こんな冗談を考えたんだ。聞いてくれるか？
The Mion under the bed didn't answer.
例えばさ、俺が今日、だけども、明日以降もここにいて、普通に生活してみせるんだよ。で、後で、それが大石のやつに分かって、またしても死亡日時が合わない。死んだはずの人間が生活していたって言って、泡を食って大騒ぎするんだよ。高野さんにミオン、そして俺で3人目。な？面白いだろ？笑えるだろ？
ケイちゃん。
笑えよ。それとも、あんまり面白くなかったか？
Mion's bloodstained hand gripped around and found my wrist. Though her fingernails were torn, she gripped it hard as if scratching me.
加減しろよ。痛いって。
ケイちゃん、迎えに来たよ。
I tried to shake my wrist loose, but the strength she held it with was unbelievable and I couldn't. She was only gripping one wrist, and yet my whole body wouldn't move. I couldn't even twitch. My fingers were spread apart and I couldn't make a fist either. And that fact that I couldn't make a fist reminded me of the restraining table. I felt a crooked nail press against my left pinky fingertip. Mion's forehead was split open, and with a face covered with blood, she smiled and got right up, just behind me.
何も終わってない。何も終わってない。この事件は何も終わってなんかない。まだ続いてる。まだまだ続いてる。誰かこの事件を終わらせてください。この残酷で無残で気の毒で悲しい。この事件を終わらせてください。
Before all this, I was thinking, you know what, all of that was kind of wrapped up kind of neatly, and I don't think they're going to have much to talk about in the whole episode wrap-up thing, but after all this now, yeah, there's probably going to be a lot for them to talk about. As for me, I just think, honestly, that right now, what is happening right now is a hallucination, because Keiichi, he's in the hospital, he was just told a bunch of stuff by Oishi that stressed him out. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's not unreasonable to think that he might just, like, start going crazy and hallucinate. Please end it.
それだけが俺の望みです。
あの時、一つ叶えてあげたでしょ？今度はダメ。
basically, I think what's going on here is that Keiichi now has to live with the quote-unquote ghost of Mion haunting him. Or rather, he has to live with the memory of Mion haunting him, and that's the same thing probably happened to Shion, which is why she went crazy and stabbed Keiichi and then killed herself. That is my best guess as to what happened so far. Mion firmly held the nail down on my fingertip, and with her other hand, she slowly swung a mallet up into the air and... And we don't get to see what happened. But probably what happened is that Keiichi did something like to hurt himself while everybody was out of the room. All Cast Review Session has become available. To play it, select Extra on the title menu, and then pick up the All Cast Review Session. No credits this time, alright. Well, there we go. So, nearly 4 hours in, and we are done. So, next time, just like last time, there might be a bit of a break in between when this episode comes out and when the next one does. But the next one, just like last time, will be a complete review of everything so far, everything that I've noticed, everything that I've just thought about, like all of my thoughts on everything, all arranged in terms of like mysteries and my thoughts on what all of them mean and all that. So, you can look forward to that, I guess, in the future. And until then, take care, and I'll see you then.